This bizarre story begins early one morning when the main character, Barry, comes to propose to the parents of his girlfriend, Carol. He says he's been saving up $8 million since he met her in high school, but he simply doesn't have any more money. Carol's mother claims that all this is a pathetic excuse, since the marriage of the only precious daughter should be accompanied by rich gifts. Carol's father says he hears Barry has inherited an apartment in a good area that he can sell. Barry says that this apartment is his father's and the company's, so he can't just sell it. Carol's mother immediately loses her temper and says that he probably just doesn't want to spend money on their daughter. Carol reassures her parents, says that she will sort everything out herself, and then gestures for her boyfriend to go outside. She immediately follows him to have a proper talk. Carol says that her mother is right, and Barry just has to find the missing amount. Barry replies that he can't find more money. Carol starts to get capricious, and says that if he really wants to marry her, he must figure out how to get this amount. Barry realizes he has no other choice and says he will sort out the money, but he needs some time. Turning quickly back, he says that as soon as he gets the money, they will get married as soon as possible. The action moves several hours into the future, to a small coffee shop where Barry has been working all this time. His colleagues say he eats too little for lunch and needs to economize less, but he says he has no other choice. Suddenly, he hears the voice of his beloved Carol, who is talking to her friend about how she is going to get married. A friend tells her that lately all she hears from her is talk about money, after which it becomes clear that Carol is cheating on the protagonist with a wealthy landlord. After some time, her friend asks her if she will really marry Barry, who is not a rich man. Carol says she has no other choice, because she found out she was pregnant a few days ago, and therefore has to get married as soon as possible. She also adds that she can get rid of Barry quite quickly with the help of a property agreement. The protagonist realizes that his heart is completely broken, while Carol tries to call him over, not realizing who is standing in front of her. Barry tries to escape to the staff room, while Carol again begins to act up and insult a man she doesn't even recognize. Finally, she says that she will complain to the manager about such a pathetic establishment. Barry quickly runs out into the hallway and then ends up in the staff room to catch his breath. Emotions from what is happening overwhelm him, and he understands that all this time he has been dating an extremely mercantile person. He is suddenly interrupted by a phone call from his mother, asking if he can pick up his sister from the airport. Barry says that his shift is just ending, then takes off his apron and washes himself thoroughly before heading to the airport. In the office shower, he is overcome with emotion again, and he realizes that he is becoming too sad about what is happening. In a rage, he says that his girlfriend only thinks about money and doesn't care about anything else in this world. Suddenly he hears a system notification that it is changing the global economy, reducing the value of money to 1/1,000,000th of its current value. The system also reports that the money Barry currently has remains unchanged, but he chalks this up to stress-induced hallucinations. Without thinking twice, he gets dressed and goes to the bus stop to catch a suitable route. Once inside, he asks the driver how much a one-way ticket to the airport costs. To his surprise, people start laughing and say that such stories are best left for bedtime stories. One of the passengers says that cash yen will only be used for the bus in a parallel universe where Barry is president. Barry wonders what's wrong with these people, and why they're so surprised when a bus ticket costs just over 1,000 yen. Without attaching much importance to these words, he turns to the driver and asks again how much the fare is. One of the passengers says that even if Barry sold his body, he would not earn even a single yen. Barry asks the impudent man what the hell is going on, adding that he was just asking the price of the ticket. He also claims that he has about 200 yen with him, but people don't believe him and say that it's a lot of money. One cheeky passenger says he's accidentally getting on the bus today so he can pay for Barry. Barry quickly looks around and discovers that there are no cameras here, meaning this isn't a prank. The driver urges him on, telling him that he must either pay the fare or get out of here so as not to delay the route. Barry, without thinking twice, takes out a 100 yen coin and says that he has 2 of them. When people look at this, they start to get incredibly shocked because they haven't seen such large coins for a long time. The cheeky passenger says that this simply can't be, because such a guy can't have such a large sum. Barry remembers the strange words of the system that he heard not long ago, and tries to understand. Is it possible that everything he heard is true? He still tries to pay the fare, but the driver says he doesn't have enough money to give him change. Barry looks closely at his coin and wonders in his mind if 100 yen is really such a huge amount of money now. Hearing foreign expressions from other passengers, he realizes that they are up to something, so he decides to pretend that he doesn't understand anything and just leaves. Not wanting to waste time, he jumps out of the bus to try to figure out what's going on. In the app, he finds that a single phone costs only 1 sen, and an expensive Rolex watch costs no more than 1 yen. The thought of what will happen to the 10,000 bills he receives as a salary frightens him, because they may become worthless. In order to provide himself with at least some financial security, Barry decides to turn to a bank. After spending some time in the department, he finally hears his number and goes to the third window. After greeting the employee, he says that he would like to make a deposit, and the girl asks him how much he would like to contribute. Barry says he would like to deposit 100,000 yen into the bank, adding that he wants to connect to internet banking and mobile payments. The bank employee says that this is too big a sum for her to handle on her own, adding that she will call the manager. After some time, they put these bills on a special machine that counts the money, and discover that Barry did not lie. Barry, meanwhile, receives a system notification that such large sums of money in this world are now subject to counterfeit checks. After some time, he goes to the VIP lounge to carry out the final checks. Barry asks the employee if they have completed the procedure, to which the girl replies that they have confirmed his deposits. The employee also asks him if he would like to deposit the entire amount right now. Barry says he would like to keep about 3 yen for himself to provide himself with a little pocket money. A moment later, the door to the area quickly opens and several people enter. One of these people is Carol, who tells her new beau that she did everything as he said and got Barry to marry her. Without hiding the joy in her eyes, she says that she is now almost a married woman. Her suitor says that there is a certain charm in stealing someone else's woman, and he really likes it. Barry watches this little scene and says that he never suspected her of something so shameful. Carol looks at the main character in surprise and asks him if he really came here to take out a loan, but Barry declares that he will never marry her. Carol says that for a beautiful girl like her, having a lover is a completely normal state of affairs. Barry says that Carol turned out to be the most terrible woman he has ever known. A bank employee stops him and tells him that the branch manager would like to meet him in person. Carol's boyfriend says that this guy insulted his beloved girl, and therefore he should apologize to him. Barry says that he does not support such an attitude towards himself and states that he is not against a fight, but it will end badly for his opponent. His opponent says that he is the president of a large company and is a very rich man. He also claims that if he wants, he can block all the bank's operations with a snap of his fingers. Security arrives at the sounds of the argument, and Carol's suitor declares that there is a man here who does not belong in the VIP lounge and needs to be thrown out. The guards tell them that this man is now one of the most important investors among all the others. The bank manager also enters the room and apologizes to Barry, adding that he was in a hurry to return from a director's meeting. He also states that Barry has deposited a significant amount of money into the bank, and so they will immediately issue him a black diamond card. Carol and her boyfriend question the authenticity of this money and say that this boy simply cannot have such a large sum. The manager gets very angry when he hears this and says that he will not tolerate insults towards his employees and their banknote checking skills. The businessman understands that things are going badly and immediately apologizes to the manager, saying that he is very sorry about what he said. Carol also makes a naive attempt to win back the protagonist's favor by saying that she couldn't believe that he would side with the old man. Barry pushes the materialistic woman away and asks the manager to get these people out of here immediately. The manager says that he will immediately fulfill this request and orders the guards to throw these people away. After some time, Barry gets to the airport, despite the fact that the visit to the bank took him more time than he planned. Barry guesses that his sister has probably already arrived and expresses hope that she is not tired of waiting for him. A few moments later, he feels the soft touch of a woman's hand and hears his sister's voice asking him why it took him so long. Barry smiles and turns towards his interlocutor, who tells him that he now owes her a chocolate bar. The main character says that he had to stay late, but he agrees to somehow compensate for it. Looking at his sister, he realizes that she is, as always, charming, after which he suggests going to a cafe to order some refreshments. Looking around, they discover unusual shops and declare that their city has never seen anything like them before. The protagonist's sister suggests that they should take their time because everything at the airport is quite expensive and that it would be better for him to get out of the area. Suddenly, some young man bumps into the main character, deliberately pushing him aside and thereby demonstrating his impudence. This man turns out to be one of Barry's sister's classmates, who says that he can treat them if they are going to this cafe. They also start laughing at Barry, saying that he won't be able to earn even enough for coffee because he dresses like a real poor man. Barry asks his sister if she knows these people, to which the girl replies that she met them recently, and they said that they study in the same class with her. Immediately after this, she asks her brother not to interfere in this, saying that these people are not worth attention. The arrogant student says that this man probably doesn't even have money for a bottle of water, so he better not come here. His girlfriend asks him not to interfere because otherwise he might become infected with poverty, and this is not what they want. Barry is suddenly given a mission that requires him to spend 1 yen within 2 hours to receive a physical boost. The main character tosses a coin and says that he really wanted to get something like this in order to teach these people a lesson. The girlfriend of an impudent student tells him that he should stop wasting his time on all sorts of losers. She also decides to make a very strange expression on her face. I mean, his throat is dry. Seeing this, the student says that he will buy her something to drink to quench her thirst. Their peculiar flirtation attracts the attention of a large number of people, who suddenly rush off somewhere in an unknown direction. An angry boy yells at other people to watch where they are going. The girl next to them says that everything in the cafe will be free today and decides to check it out. The head of this student group is surprised that in such an expensive cafe, everything will suddenly be sold for free. Coming closer to the employee of this cafe, he asks her if everything will really be free today. The girl says that everything is exactly like this, since today this client is paying the entire bill, pointing to Barry. Barry says that since it's very hot today, everyone can drink as much as they want. Immediately after this, he turns to his sister and asks her if she likes these drinks, to which the girl replies that they taste a little bitter. The student asks the protagonist what he is trying to do, to which he asks a counter question, does he really want a drink too? Barry says that if he thanks him, he will even buy him a drink. The cheeky student says that he won't thank you for this cheap coffee because even dogs don't drink it abroad. His words have consequences, as all the people around him start looking at him with irritation. Barry advises the student to choose his words, to which he replies that he does not need drinks that poor people who have never traveled abroad drink. Citizens at the airport say that he needs to refrain from criticizing someone who provided a service from the heart. They also talk about the need to teach this scoundrel a lesson who is trying to humiliate people he knows nothing about. The beaten young man tries to call his friends for help so that they can pull him out of this difficult situation. Angry townspeople ask the student's friends if they are his accomplices, to which they reply that they do not know him. Barry says that no brat can get his sister by waving change. The protagonist's sister says that they spent quite a lot of money, but Barry replies that for him such amounts are nothing. After some time they arrive at a taxi stand to rest. The system notifies the protagonist that the task has been completed, and the bonus has been distributed according to his characteristics. The system also informs him that his stamina has increased 3 times compared to a normal person. Barry's sister asks him where the taxi they called went, to which he replies that he will now take a closer look at the navigator. A few more minutes pass, and the protagonist's sister draws his attention to the fact that a very beautiful car has stopped next to them. In this car sits a businesswoman named Jean, who asks Barry what he is doing here. Barry says that he has come to pick up his sister and is going to take her to the university dorm. Barry's sister says that she will get to the dorm herself, so that he does not miss the chance to work with such a beautiful woman. Jean asks Barry what they are talking about, to which he states that he would like to get in their car. Barry reflects that he has always struggled financially, so even if this is his only paycheck, it's not bad. After some time, Jana tells him that he should look at all the presentation materials while he has the opportunity. Jean also says that if the project goes through, his bonus will be several hundred yen. But Barry states that he feels like he has fallen into his manager's trap. She also places her hand on his thigh and tells him that he has become too cocky, to which he replies that she needs to watch the road. Jana smiles and says that he should be proud of the fact that he fell into her net. After some time, they successfully reach the main building of the corporation. Barry's workplace is already being hijacked by some scoundrel named Ogawa, who is trying to get rid of his personal belongings. Barry tries to find out what all this means, to which Ogawa says that he no longer has a place in the development department, and as of today, he is fired. Barry demands that his interlocutor return what belongs to him, but the latter asks a counter-question as to why he should do this. Ogawa asks him if he's really going to settle everything with a fight, and swings his arm to deliver a powerful blow. Barry intercepts the blow from the impudent fool and immediately grabs his palm. A few moments later, he presses on one of his attack points, and the defiant Ogawa instantly gives in. One of the senior staff members intervenes and asks Barry to immediately let go of the man's hand. He also states that Barry's abilities are not outstanding, and he decided to pass this presentation on to Ogawa. Barry asks his manager if he is really trying to steal a project he created from scratch at the last minute. The manager says that if he is not satisfied with something, he can go to hell, but Jana intervenes. She states that she will never allow this to happen, because Barry developed this project from the very beginning, which means there is no replacement for him. The manager says that this issue does not concern Jana, but the girl states that they have no right to give direct orders to her subordinates. The manager says that very soon Jana will see everything herself and will bitterly regret her decision. Jean tells Barry not to worry about it, and recommends that he focus on preparing for the presentation. Barry reflects that although his manager is strict in her work, She really knows how to care for her people and protect them. After some time, the action moves to a conference room where the project presentation is to take place. Jana finishes her presentation of her project, saying that their work is now complete. The president of Kia says it was amazing, and they exceeded all their expectations. Jana pats Barry on the hand and tells him that he did an excellent job preparing the presentation material. Barry smiles and reflects on the fact that his manager is getting too close to him and showing too much attention. Akira says that as soon as the president of their company appears, they will discuss the issue of settling the debts. Jana looks closely at the president and asks him what kind of debt settlement he is talking about. The evil manager says that the company's financial statements show debts of several hundred million, and at this rate, they won't even be able to pay salaries. Jana says that all this is complete nonsense, since there is nothing like this in the company's accounting books. The manager says that she was completely deceived by these old people, because the books she looked at actually turned out to be fake. Jana asks whether they really planned to lure her into a trap from the very beginning, to which her opponent laughs and says that she was caught perfectly. Jana says that this company is something that she built with her own sweat and blood, and now they are simply trying to take it away. Her opponent says that they have already founded a new company, and they will be the ones to sign a large contract on favorable terms. He also says that the president of this company will buy the entire story for a mere 90 yen, to which Jean replies that this is a blatant attempt to take advantage of their temporary weakness. Her opponent, Kawasaki, says that she is unlikely to be able to get even such a small amount. After some time, the company's president, Kinoshita, arrives in the hall and immediately catches the admiring glances of everyone present. One of his companions says that he is sorry to drag him into such a situation, but he would very much like to meet the person who contributed 100,000 yen. A few moments later, the branch manager, who had met Barry earlier, looks at him and asks what he is doing there. His colleague wonders in surprise if this is the man they were told about, to which Barry nods. Kinoshita introduces himself with respect and says that it is a great honor for him to meet Barry in this place. Kawasaki is shocked and wonders if the president is confusing the boy with someone else, since Barry is just a janitor. Kinoshita calls Kawasaki a pathetic fool and says that the man deposited 100,000 yen into the bank without thinking, just by walking in. Barry, meanwhile, says that buying their company is not yet possible because the documents turned out to be fake. He also says that there is one more thing that needs to be sorted out before they can part ways peacefully. Jean asks him what he is talking about, to which Barry states that these people were falsifying the books and trying to sell the company illegally. He turns to one of his comrades and asks for a thorough investigation, adding that they are ready for full cooperation. The branch manager confirms that they will involve the relevant authorities and conduct a full investigation to identify those responsible. Kawasaki, in despair, cannot believe what is happening and declares that all of these are false accusations. After some time, news appears in the newspapers that the employee was arrested for embezzlement and involvement in creating false accounting reports. Barry and Jean decide to celebrate the occasion with a dinner together, and the girl thanks him for everything he has done for her. Jana also says that he saved her company, which is the most important thing in her life, and adds that she appreciates it very much. Barry says that he would like to entrust the management of the company to her, but in the future, she needs to be more careful and not allow herself to be deceived so easily. Jana smiles and says that she really does fall for tricks easily, so this won't be easy for her. After this, she stands up and says that she wants to propose another toast. After a few moments, she finds it difficult to walk and slips on the smooth floor. Barry immediately rushes forward, prevents the girl from falling, and asks her if she is okay. Jana says that she twisted her ankle and needs to be in her hotel room, then looks at him suggestively. She also says that she hopes he won't do anything weird, to which Barry calmly replies that she doesn't have to worry about him. A few minutes pass, and they find themselves in a rather expensive room. Barry checks to see if everything is okay with Jean, and says that in that case, he might as well go about his business. As soon as he turns around, Jana decides to take action and wraps her leg around him. Barry turns around to see a beautiful girl throwing herself into his arms. Looking at him, she smiles, because this time it was he who fell into the trap, despite the fact that he always gave advice to others. Barry decides to play along with his partner and rushes to the bed to carefully lay her there. A moment later, he says he will kiss her to celebrate the great victory in the corporate race. Several hours pass and Jean smiles and says that she still can't believe that Barry fell for her trick. She also asks him what kind of person he is if he could do such grueling things for 6 hours without stopping. Barry smiles and reminds her that it was she who first provoked him to do such things. Jana playfully says that she didn't expect today's youth to have such amazing stamina. Immediately after this, she pounces on him again and says that she can't stand it anymore. A little more time passes, and Barry receives a system notification that he must spend 1 yen before the end of the day to receive a random bonus. Barry asks his new girlfriend what she thinks about him investing in her company. Jana says decisively that she would be against such a decision, because it is too much influence on his part. She also says that after the incident, the company will suffer some losses, but they got rid of the infection and will eventually come out on top. After this, she kisses the main character and says that this will be the best gratitude for her largest investor. She then tries to move away, but realizes that she is doing so with incredible difficulty. Jean talks about how she is literally falling apart, all because of the incredible intensity of some of the actions she carried out with Barry. Barry asks her why she doesn't take the day off, to which the girl replies that they have an important meeting today, and she simply has to be there. With great difficulty, but nevertheless, she says that she must achieve everything on her own. Barry is seeing his partner off, thinking that he might get some rest in that case, when he suddenly receives a phone call. After receiving the call, he realizes that it is his best friend, whose aunt was hospitalized, calling him. Jumping up from his seat, he immediately goes to the hospital to visit his friend and his relative. The protagonist's best friend Yamaguchi is already there, sitting next to his aunt. The elderly woman says with sadness in her voice that she had never been sick before, but now she has found herself in such trouble. Barry peels an apple and tells the woman that it's just years of fatigue taking its toll. He also smiles and remembers that when they were students, he ate at her house very often. Barry hands his aunt a peeled apple, saying it will give her strength to fight the disease. Yamaguchi considers borrowing money from a friend, but changes his mind when he sees that Barry's company is not doing well. After some time, a pretty nurse enters the room, accompanied by 2 strong young orderlies. One of the orderlies says that the patient needs to be transferred to another room immediately, no matter what happens. Yamaguchi stands in the way of the orderlies and asks what happened and why she is being transferred. He also says that he will arrange the hospitalization within a few days, and asks not to throw her out. The nurse looks at him in surprise and tells him that the aunt is being transferred because a payment of 1 yen in cash has been received. Yamaguchi asks the nurse where the money came from, to which she replies with a smile that Barry paid for everything. The orderlies lift the auntie into their arms and say that they will personally take her to the ward, asking if everything is okay with her. The woman smiles and says that she is glad to be in the company of such amazing men, noting that she already feels better. The satisfied orderlies tell her to hold on tight and say they are heading to the VIP room. After some time, they find themselves in a special hospital ward intended for high-income patients. Men tell women that they can call them at any time because they are available 24/7. Yamaguchi, meanwhile, says he feels like he's dreaming and asks Barry to hit him to make sure it's not a dream. Barry happily complies with his friend's request and delivers a powerful blow to him, causing him to scream loudly. Yamaguchi asks him to take it easy, to which Barry replies that this is his punishment for hiding the problems with paying for the treatment. Yamaguchi apologizes for hiding everything, but Barry understands why he did it. He immediately says that if Yamaguchi ever runs out of money, he should immediately contact him, because his aunt's health is a priority. A few moments later, Barry receives a system notification that he has completed the task and received the eye-shaped measuring tool skill. Barry carefully reads the description of his reward and wonders what this bonus even means. Meanwhile, we move to the next room, where a young girl asks her father how he is feeling. This girl turns out to be Yamada, a student at the university where the main character's sister was admitted. The girl asks her father if she should call a doctor, to which he replies that he is fine and wants to hand over the management of the company to her. Handing over a notebook, he says that it contains materials on the current project. If they sign the contract, they will be able to stabilize the financial situation. Yamada's father says that the project is a perfect match for her specialization, so she will definitely succeed. Yamada promises to think everything over carefully and asks his father to just rest in order to recover as quickly as possible. After finishing visiting her father, she leaves the hospital, thinking that if she hurries, she will surely make it in time for the lecture. On her way, she meets a strange grandmother who declares that the girl was brought here on purpose, because she is a real daughter of money. Without thinking twice, the girl heads towards her, unaware that a strange scene is being prepared. Finding herself a few steps away from Yamada, the elderly woman suddenly loses her balance and begins to fall. Grabbing Yamada's leg, she begins to wail and says that young people should watch where they are going. Yamada is confused by the situation and wonders if she really did crash into her grandmother, when suddenly 2 men claim that they saw everything. One of them approaches the woman and says that the girl is behaving very indecently, and they will contact her educational institution. Barry arrives in time and supports the girl, preventing her from falling, asking if she is okay. He repeats the question when suddenly his system notifies him that the eye measurement result is F36. Barry is trying to figure out what this index means because he is usually used to measuring breast sizes in completely different categories. Meanwhile, the old woman continues her hysteria, claiming that the student hit her without even looking at her. Confused, Yamada says that perhaps she was just in too much of a hurry and accidentally hit the woman. Barry stops her and tells her that if she admits guilt, she will fall into these people's trap. He reflects on how he's been watching what's happening all this time, with his skill working in the background. Barry explains that when Yamada passed just 3 centimeters from her grandmother, she would deliberately lean forward to get closer. He also reports that there were people with cameras standing behind him, filming the moment to later use as evidence. Barry adds that it was an ideal location for filming, as it allowed all the flaws in the staging to be hidden. Yamada asks Barry if he is really telling the truth, to which he smirks and admits that he made it all up. He also adds that these people look like a real film crew and wonders if she's been running away from someone recently. Yamada thinks for a moment, then turns to the strange grandmother and firmly says that she definitely didn't hurt her. The woman, weakly playing the victim, asks if she is sure, since she is supposedly facing surgery. But then Barry subtly hints that the hospital, by the way, is full of cameras. Yamada confidently states that she agrees to watch the video, but adds that regular filming is not always able to accurately reflect all the details. She also says that there are now slow-motion technologies that allow you to capture even a fraction of a second, and with their help, you can find out the whole truth. Yamada solemnly declares that if she is found guilty, she will compensate for all losses, but if it turns out the opposite, then moral compensation will be written off from them. The grandmother immediately becomes frightened by such a calm, but frighteningly logical threat, and quickly runs away, muttering something inarticulate. Yamada proudly watches these swindlers go by and says that she will never allow anyone to treat her unfairly. Barry asks with interest how she knows about such technologies, to which the girl laughs and admits that she made it up herself. A warm smile, a slight spark of mutual respect and understanding, flares up between two resourceful people. Yamada states his name and thanks Barry for his quick and decisive help. Barry also introduces himself in response and adds that he is a little busy now, but if she wants, they can go for a walk later. He watches her go, wondering if perhaps this is all just a way to subtly keep him under control. However, he grins and decides that it is better not to get too close to sincere people who have their own ambitions. After some time, he notices that the clock is already quite late. After leaving the hospital, he heads home to one of his rented apartments. Making himself comfortable on the couch, he decides to check out what's on his favorite streaming site today. With just a few clicks, he finds himself on a live broadcast, a competition between two streamers, in which the famous dance goddess takes part. A streamer named Celine is clearly in the lead and thanks all her fans for supporting her talents in the field. Her rival, Abigail, asks for support from her audience, especially those who come from the gaming segment. Celine remarks with a sardonic smile that Abigail seems to be losing and sarcastically asks if she should play games with her feet. As a mockery, she actually starts debating whether to show how good she is at playing with her feet. Barry activates his ability, a tool for ultra-precise measurements, and begins to carefully study what is happening. Without thinking twice, he writes in the comments that something is clearly wrong with her legs, because even the table next to her seemed to have begun to deform. Celine gets annoyed by these comments and demands an explanation from Barry as to whether he even watched the stream carefully. A few minutes later, he receives a notification that he has been blocked from this channel for a whole year. Viewers immediately begin to defend Celine, calling Barry a pathetic, toxic person and a dependent loser. Barry is outraged by such a blatant violation of freedom of speech, and decides that something must be done about it urgently. To get revenge on Celine for blocking him, he switches to Abigail's stream. Abigail says that the competition is almost over, and asks for any financial support to try to get ahead. Barry ignores the gloomy mood in the chat, and boldly sends several extremely expensive gifts at once. Celine watches in shock as donations come in, and realizes that the balance of power has shifted dramatically. The site's interface shows that Abigail has received a huge number of ships, each of which costs fabulous sums. With a sharp jump, Abigail takes the lead and sincerely thanks her top donor. Celine tries to find out who sent such sums of money and realizes that she made a terrible mistake. In a last-ditch effort, she turns to her audience, trying to squeeze some money out of them. Barry doesn't hesitate to send 10 more giant ships to finally put an end to it. Celine understands that she has lost by a landslide, since her audience is not able to compete with such a donor. Barry wonders what the point of shutting other people up is if it doesn't solve any problems. The audience immediately changes sides and demands that Celine apologize to Barry, who was blocked for no reason. Celine reluctantly but clearly admits her mistake, and says that she is ready to be punished. Barry, meanwhile, leaves the stream and receives several private messages from Abigail. She thanks him for his support, adding that she streams for fun and doesn't need such expensive gifts. She also offers to return the money if Barry deems it necessary, and he briefly suspects her of fraud. However, he quickly replies that such amounts do not mean much to him, and she can keep them for herself. Abigail suggests meeting and having dinner together as friends to somehow repay the kindness. Barry is a little surprised and wonders if she thinks he is trying to win her favor with gifts. However, he realizes that he has no ulterior motives and agrees to just chat. The scene shifts to a luxurious villa located on the riverbank. The villa belongs to a very wealthy family who clearly have no problems with money. An adult woman accuses her daughter Abigail of spending too much time streaming. Abigail tells her mother that this is her job, and since she has already finished everything, she can now spend time with her family. Sitting next to her mother, she says that she would never leave her alone for too long. Abigail's mother tells her that she already receives several million from the family, so she does not need to work. Abigail laughs and says that she doesn't work just for the money, because she really enjoys making a difference for her family. She also talks about how she meets some very interesting people at this job, and shows her correspondence with Barry. Abigail's mother says that she already has a suitor, one of the very large corporations. Abigail says that she is not ready to think about it now, to which the woman replies that she is simply conveying a message and is not forcing her to do anything. Meanwhile, the scene moves to the city at night, where Barry decides to go outside to breathe the night air. While walking around the city, he realizes that he is a little hungry and decides to drop in to see his friend at a diner. He understands that there is nothing tastier than fried kebabs and lots of beer. Without thinking twice, he heads to a store called Hank's Fried Snacks. Old man Hank is having some financial difficulties and asks his landlord to hold off on his payments for a little while. The landlord says that she is running a business here, not a charity. She also states that he can use his equipment as collateral and pay for the rent if he needs to. Hank can't believe what's happening, when suddenly the landlady turns to her subordinates and tells them that they must take everything that is here. Hank claims that these stoves were custom-made, cost him tens of thousands, and are not worth the money he owes her. The impudent young man says that no one will buy these old pieces of iron, and taking them to pay off the debt would be merciful. Barry immediately decides to intervene in what is happening, putting his hand on this impudent guy's shoulder to stop him. The angry man turns to the protagonist and asks him what the hell he is doing here, but quickly realizes that he cannot move. Barry asks the landlady how much Hank owes her, adding that he will pay for everything. The landlady looks at him skeptically and tries to find out if this boy is joking when he says he can pay the entire debt. After thinking for a bit, she says that she won't agree to this, even if he actually pays. The woman also says that at one time, out of the kindness of her heart, she agreed to rent the store to this old man at a low rent. From her point of view, this area is now about to become a busy shopping street, and therefore she cannot maintain the price at the previous level. The landlord also claims that a large chain of stores wants to rent her premises at a better price. Barry, without thinking twice, decides to turn to his phone to contact the right people. At the same time, the landlord says that if they are ready to pay $30,000 to $50,000 per month, then she can meet them halfway. Barry, meanwhile, thanks his friend for his efforts in such urgent preparation of the necessary papers. Without thinking twice, he says that there is nothing more to talk about with such a greedy landlord, adding that the place already belongs to him. The landlord laughs and says she would never believe such a bluff, noting that she built everything from scratch and would not sell it for a pittance. She also orders her comrades to continue to take everything out of here until there is nothing left. Barry decides not to let this happen and stands in the way of the two thugs, instantly blocking their path with his hands. Immediately after this, he throws them back with the unstoppable power he received thanks to the system. The landlady looks at him in horror, wondering what the hell he's doing, and threatens to call the police. Barry dusts off his hands and says that she only bought the right to use the store, nothing more. A few moments later, in the middle of the night, several construction vehicles appear to begin construction. Barry smiles and says that he bought all the land under this shopping street in just a few minutes. The builders turn to their new boss and ask him what his instructions will be. The landlady looks at the construction vehicles that appeared out of nowhere and wonders what they are up to. Barry says that if he wants, he can start building on this place right now, and then it will just be empty, and she will not sell it to anyone. He also says that he will only lose a little money, since for him such expenses are a pittance. The landlady realizes that she simply cannot do anything against such a rich man and falls to her knees. She says that in recent years their family has failed in all their investments, and they live only on rent from this shopping street. As a compromise, she says she is willing to cut the rent in half, and no longer charge for water and electricity. Barry smiles and says that this is where we should have started to prevent anything like this from happening. After some time, he receives a systemic task to create a company capable of resisting a large number of greedy corporations. To celebrate his first small victory, he decides to order food. Hank says that all the treats today will be on him, so Barry can feel free to choose delicacies. Barry says that his night kitchen is still beyond competition, so he will visit it often. Hank says he doesn't want to brag, but his family has a secret recipe that has been passed down for generations. After some time, Jana comes here and says that such a big boss invited her on a date to treat her to fried kebabs on skewers. Having tried this delicacy, she says that it actually has a very interesting and memorable taste. Barry smiles and reflects that if she knew how much that kebab cost him, she would think of him completely differently. Barry also remembers that the system has given him a sense for people who have been deceiving corporations and decides to cuddle closer to Gina. Jana tells him that there are many people around him, but if he wants, they can return home. Barry realizes that they don't smell any deception from this man and says that he invited her here to start a company and he needs help. Jana says that they will have Joy as his personal secretary, after which she asks what kind of company he wants to open. Barry says he hasn't decided what kind of company he wants to open yet, but he does say that the district equipment in this company should be the most expensive. He also wonders in his mind whether he will receive an additional bonus if Jana falls into the clutches of scammers and he saves her. Jana says that she already has experience in opening a company, so they will be happy to begin their work duties. Meanwhile, Jean asks Hank to wrap her up 1 serving of fried onions and 5 servings of pork kidneys. Barry looks at his interlocutor in surprise and mentally wonders what came over her. After some time, he walks her home to make sure that she gets to the right apartment safely at night. Jana hugs him and says that he is ungrateful because she will work in the company, and he will go out again to hang out with girls. Barry says that he never betrayed her, to which Jean replies that the scent of perfume emanating from him says otherwise. Jana also states that she does not need anything else, and she only wants him to be there when needed and to help her regain her strength. Barry smiles and tells her that she can count on him, because he will never leave her in trouble. The couple heads towards the house, when suddenly Barry begins to feel a strange presence behind him, as if someone is watching him. Without thinking twice, he decides to activate his skill of incredibly precise measurement using his eyes. Taking a quick look around, he realizes that the distance to the shadow remains unchanged, which means that someone has been following them all this time. To quickly get out of this situation, he grabs his beloved by the hand to attract her attention. He also states that his stomach doesn't feel right for some reason, noting that it looks like the kebabs weren't very fresh. Barry says that he is unlikely to be able to visit her today, so she should go home without him. But Jean guesses that something is wrong here. Smiling, she says that next time he will return to her everything that he did not guess today, with interest. Barry smiles and watches her go, telling her that next time he will definitely make up for the inconvenience. After waiting for Jana to go further away, he turns back and says that they have been following him for too long, recommending that he show himself. 3 mafia guys appear in front of him and say that they came across a guy with very sharp eyes. Their leader says that since he is meddling in something that is none of his business, he should not complain about the problems he will get. With these words, 2 of the bandits' henchmen take baseball bats from behind their backs to beat up the main character. Barry waits for them to get close to him, then masterfully wriggles out of it with a feat of human agility. The next blow, which should have broken his jaw, he easily stops with his hand. Barry also notes the incredible strength of these criminals, realizing that even after improving his stamina, he can barely keep up with them. He immediately turns around and says that perhaps there was a misunderstanding here, since there is no need to immediately get into a fight. Taking out a wad of money, he says that he can resolve this issue more peacefully, so that there is no need to use violence. In response, the mobster swings his knife, quickly knocking the wad of money out of Barry's hands. He says that Barry didn't understand who he was dealing with because money wouldn't help him. He immediately rushes forward and says that he must remember for the future, so as not to poke his nose into other people's business. Suddenly, an elderly woman appears behind him, puts her hand on his shoulder and compliments his muscles. Along with this woman, a large number of other old men appear, who say that they heard that filming was taking place nearby, and they are recruiting extras. Jana waves a wad of money and says that she is very grateful to these old men, declaring that she will pay each of them $200. Barry looks at his beloved in surprise and cannot believe that she came to his aid in such a difficult situation. Jana laughs and says that she can't be fooled so easily, since she has seen much more than he has. The elderly extras nearby say that they are now playing at 100%, which is why they are interfering with the situation that has arisen. Barry laughs and says that money may not be able to summon ghosts, but it can bring the toughest fighters around the circle. One of the bandits turns to the elderly woman, saying that she reminds him very much of his dear grandmother. The leader of the bandits understands that he won't be able to cope together, and orders his comrades to quickly get out of here. The old men look at Jana in surprise and ask her why the main actors left the set if filming has not yet ended. Barry, through the eyes of these people, tries to understand who is behind these bandits and why they are following them. After some time, the action moves to a bank branch that Barry recently visited. A girl named Stella comes inside, mentally complaining that she really wants to sleep. A few moments later, one of the men calls out to her and asks her why she allows herself to behave so lowly. He tells her that she works in a bank, which means her appearance and behavior are the face of this establishment. The man says that service is a serious matter, while his colleague says that these young people have no fighting spirit at all. Stella wipes her face with a handkerchief in surprise and wonders who all these people are and what they are doing here. The branch manager also appears on the scene, looking around and wondering how they all managed to get together so quickly. Stella looks at her boss with slight bewilderment and asks him what exactly is going on here, to which he calmly states that he is now going to introduce her to these people. With these words, the branch manager says that the director of the development bank was there, and next to him was the head of the Chinese branch of Morgan Bank. Stella quickly realizes that these are some real big shots from the financial world, and wonders how they got here in the first place. The branch manager says that it is not appropriate for such respected people to stand at the door, and suggests that they go to the VIP lounge so that they can properly relax. His interlocutors immediately declare that they will not go anywhere until they meet Barry and have a proper talk with him. Stella looks at these people carefully, realizing that they came here specifically to talk to her recent client. Meanwhile, one financial sector official says they can also help with monitoring and training staff, which he says is very expensive. Stella bows respectfully before them, and the branch manager adds that this girl is his deputy. A male guest does not understand how this is even possible, and initially accuses the branch manager of abuse of office. The branch manager sharply replies that this is complete nonsense, and that the accusations seem offensive to him, but his interlocutors demand an explanation from him. At this point, Stella receives a call from Barry and asks him if he wants to make another huge deposit. The financial bigwigs nearby are surprised by such an impressive sum and understand that we are talking about that very Barry. The branch manager explains that when Barry first came to them, it was Stella who worked with him, and that is why she became the deputy director. The branch managers quickly change their mood and begin to praise Stella, stating that she is the pride of the financial sector. After some time, the action moves to Barry's rented apartment, who asks Stella to come to him in person. As soon as the girl gets to him, she decides to stop for a bit to catch her breath after the journey. Barry thanks her for her efforts and immediately hands her a bottle of water so she can refresh herself. Stella smiles and says that it is her duty to protect the privacy of her most important client. The girl reflects on the fact that she changed 3 cars and walked through 4 streets to break away from these financial tycoons. Barry notes that he didn't expect so many people to be following him, but yesterday's mafia members clearly have nothing to do with the financial crowd. He remembers the bandit leader's words about him meddling in something that wasn't his business, and wonders if he's talking about that small-time streamer. A few moments later, his phone starts buzzing annoyingly, and the protagonist realizes that he has received a message. Taking out his phone, he finds a message from Abigail, who says that she will be waiting for him at the restaurant at 6 p.m. Barry realizes that this is a very fortunate coincidence, because it is a good opportunity to find out more information from her. A few more hours pass, and he shows up at the restaurant to have dinner with Abigail. At the entrance, a waiter is waiting for him and asks whether he is looking for someone or just going to have dinner. Barry realizes that he doesn't even know Abigail's real name, so he tries to figure out how to get out of this situation. The waiter politely says that if Barry doesn't have a reservation, he can show him to a free table. Suddenly, a manager with a more menacing disposition comes up and asks what he does anyway. The manager begins to scold his colleague for putting flowers in the VIP room. He also says that if they lose such a guest, they will not be able to pay for the reputational costs for a long time. The manager formally runs up, looks at Barry and declares that they don't need any new security guards. Barry ignores the impudent man and immediately receives a call from Abigail. Barry then says he is in the restaurant lobby, but the manager cuts him off and says that talking on the phone is prohibited in the lobby. Barry doesn't have time to respond to the provocation, when suddenly a small girl appears behind him and puts her hand on his shoulder. Barry turns around to see Abigail, who says she is very happy to see him. The managers look at Abigail in surprise and ask her if this man is really her guest. Barry confirms that he is a guest and did not come here to get a job as a security guard. The manager tries to apologize, saying that he did not recognize him as a worthy person. Barry muses that the man is too obnoxious to see anyone more worthy, but decides not to deal with him. Abigail says she didn't expect Barry to like playing tricks and pretending to be a security guard, and then goes on with him. As soon as they sit down at the table, the manager accompanies them and tells them that the lilies she loves are already prepared. He also asks which minion Abigail prefers, after which she asks the protagonist what he would like to order. Abigail refers to Barry by his nickname, adding that she finds it much more fun than using his real name. Barry states that he has never been to such places before, so he will order the same as his companion. The manager turns to Abigail and asks if she would like to order her favorite drink, called candy. Abigail asks Barry what he would like to drink, to which he replies that he would prefer something soda. The manager says that almost no one in the establishment orders cola, and adds that mixing it with wine is downright disgusting. Barry asks if he can have a regular cola, to which the manager replies that if the gentleman wants it, he will definitely be provided with this drink. Moving away, the manager reflects that the man is just a toy of Abigail, who imagines herself to be someone important. As he heads to the kitchen, he notices another man in rather simple clothes and wonders what this werewolf is doing here. Meanwhile, the young man sitting at the table is left wondering where the most important beauties of this city have gone. After a while, his gaze stops on Abigail, and he realizes that there is at least one more beauty here. Looking at his interlocutor, he says that he has hopes for her. Some time passes and the manager brings Abigail's order, which is cooked Australian king crab. Abigail says that she is now going to the restroom and notes that he can still watch these people. Barry is left alone when suddenly a beautiful girl approaches him and tells him that this is a very popular Australian crab. She also states that this crab has very powerful and thick claws, while making a very strange facial expression. Leaning towards the protagonist, she asks him if he can treat her to this dish. Barry takes a good look at the girl and asks her if she wants him to treat her. After a short pause, he decides to make fun of her by asking if there are really beggars in such a fancy restaurant. Deeply offended, the girl asks him if he really thinks that other people can't afford this place. Turning quickly, she says that the damned pauper can enjoy this crab as much as he wants. Just a few seconds pass, and her body touches the elbow of the protagonist, who had been peacefully snacking on a crab all this time. The girl immediately tries to start a scandal, asking him why the hell he decided to grope her. Barry asks her what it means to fence, to which the girl states that he doesn't have to pretend to be innocent. She calls him a loser again, and then states that, in addition to this, he also gets physical. In a fit of feigned anger, the girl grabs a glass that was filled with cool water. Moments later, she tries to throw it on Barry's face to teach him a lesson. Barry dodges this action with incredible ease, causing the water from the glass to spill onto the wig of a fat man named Suma sitting nearby. Abigail, who has been watching the whole time, tells the girl that she has unfairly accused her friend and should apologize. The girl says that he has no reason to apologize to this man, since he groped her himself. She also asks her who she is to force her to do such things. The manager runs up to Abigail and says that, as per her instructions, they have already recorded the cameras. He also says that after zooming in and slowing down, it turned out that it was this girl who came closer first. The girl claims that she most likely just tripped, but at that moment Barry decided to extend his hand. She also states that no girl would disgrace herself for such nonsense. Abigail asks the manager to inform other restaurants that this woman is suspected of fraud and to blacklist her. The swindler wonders who this girl is and where she got such serious power from. Abigail immediately takes out her phone to take a photo of her opponent's surprised face. The girl asks Abigail why she is filming her, to which she replies that she will post the photo on social media so that everyone will be more careful. Abigail turns to Barry and says that she will not allow him to be insulted and will help him out at every opportunity. The swindler wonders how she will be able to fool rich people and extort money from them if she is blacklisted by other restaurants. A young man intervenes in the matter, saying that his girlfriend had overdone it with alcohol, and in that case there's no need to notify her. The swindler looks at her escort, Mr. Frank, but he advises her to apologize to the two and leave immediately. The scammer quickly bows to apologize to the protagonist and Abigail, who do not deign to respond to her. Abigail asks Frank who he is, to which he replies that he is new here, so it is not surprising that no one knows him. Frank also offers to buy them dinner as an apology, to which Barry replies that he wouldn't mind it. Abigail looks at Frank with a smirk and asks if they can order anything to gain his forgiveness. Frank smiles and says that they can choose whatever they want, while catching strange looks from Barry. After a while, the manager brings a glass with a bottle of very good wine for Barry and Abigail to drink. Frank reflects that his plan was a bit convoluted, but in the end it worked. He also understands that the rich handsome man treating her to a fancy dinner, and the poor man sitting opposite her, will clearly leave this girl no room for choice. Frank reflects on how straightforward girls immediately jump into his arms, while shy girls, after pulling a couple of times, also eventually agree. Abigail laughs and suggests that Barry take a walk along the embankment, completely ignoring Frank's existence. Frank mentally laments this turn of events and tries to understand why Abigail didn't even say goodbye to him after that. And after thinking for a long time, he blocks the way for Barry and Abigail, saying that he would also like to walk with them. Abigail asks him why they should go out with him, implying that she doesn't want to. Frank does not give up on his attempts and offers his interlocutors to exchange contacts, to which she replies that there is no need for this. One of the waiters appears behind him and says that his bill is still unpaid. Frank looks closely at the bill he will have to pay and is lamented by the incredible amount he now owes the restaurant. Abigail smiles and says that she knew from the start that Frank was just trash trying to lure girls with money. She also wonders if he will not be able to pay for such an inexpensive dinner, offering to pay for it herself. Frank immediately loses his temper and rushes to hit Abigail, saying that no one has ever tricked him for free. Barry immediately steps in and intercepts the blow to prevent Abigail from being assaulted. He looks sternly at Frank and asks him if he really wants to start a scandal right in a public place where everyone can watch this circus. Frank is in incredible pain in his arm and asks Barry, with pain in his voice, what group he is in, as if that would explain the whole situation. Barry looks at Frank sullenly and states that he doesn't deal with any groups, because he himself is a separate story. Frank says that in this situation, Barry is the main obstacle. But if he dares to stick his nose into the South District, he will regret this decision much more than he thinks. Abigail doesn't pay any attention to these threats and advises Barry not to waste his time on this poor guy because he's not worth the attention. After some time, several very expensive cars drive up to the restaurant, from which people in expensive suits and with an important look get out. Barry is met by one of the high-ranking financial officials, who happily announces that they have finally arrived at the location. This man turns out to be the head of one of the banks that operates in the southern region, and his reputation immediately makes everyone wary. Abigail looks at him in surprise and realizes that she knows this man from her previous affairs or meetings. Frank, who is also watching the proceedings closely, wonders what the head of the Southern District Development Bank is doing here and why he personally came here. The head of the Southern Bank hurries up the stairs to meet with Barry as soon as possible and discuss important matters. He shakes Barry's hand with great respect and says that they finally have the opportunity to meet in person, without intermediaries. After this, he introduces himself formally, but his colleagues follow him, who also want to personally communicate with Barry and discuss prospects. Frank is surprised to see that half of the financial elite of the South Side has come to see Barry personally, as if he were some kind of king of the world. Frank watches the main character closely and wonders who he is, and why he has so much influence that the entire elite is on their feet. Barry listens to these people's business proposals and then says that he has one condition, without which the conversations are meaningless. Taking a small coin out of his pocket, he says that whoever finds out who attacked him last night will get his next investment. A challenge of sorts. The financial bigwigs smile and say they are always happy with fair competition, after which Barry tells them to expect news from him soon. Immediately after this, they turn around and head to their expensive cars, preparing to leave for their headquarters as quickly as possible and start work. Abigail muses to herself that they are apparently already being followed because of her social media posts, and decides that she will delete all information now. Barry reassures her that she shouldn't worry, because sooner or later they would have encountered this system anyway. At this point, Frank appears out of nowhere and orders Barry to stop where he is, as if he is the director. Barry looks at him and asks with interest what he wants again, trying to understand what he could have done to bother him so much this time. Frank states that he made a promise to treat Barry to his signature coconut juice, and the time has come to fulfill this sacred duty. Turning to his comrades, he says it's time to act, and everyone starts taking out bottles of drink from the inside pockets of their shirts. Barry braces himself for a fight to break out, but the next scene seems so ridiculous to him that he almost laughs. Barry quickly takes a can of coconut juice out of his inside pocket, as if it were his secret weapon. Abigail watches what is happening in amazement, and tries to understand what the hell is going on in this restaurant. Barry and his friends begin to drink the juice so quickly that it starts to spill down their faces, creating an almost comical picture. Immediately after this, smiles appear on their faces, and Barry says that these areas produce the best coconut juice, which is a local delicacy. Barry looks at this situation in surprise and asks what kind of circus he decided to arrange, because this does not look like a fight at all. Frank immediately falls to his knees in front of the protagonist and asks him to officially accept his apology for everything that happened earlier. He also states that he heard that Barry was looking for someone, and adds that he can help with these troops. as he understands the underground. Barry agrees to these terms and says that in this case he will give Frank a small chance to prove himself. After a while, the owner of the establishment approaches them and asks Barry to take part in a survey to evaluate the level of service. The owners ask Barry if he liked the service, or if he has any suggestions to make the restaurant even better. Barry says he has no complaints. On the contrary, he wanted to thank the gym manager for his professionalism and attentiveness. The owners of the establishment look at Barry with confusion, trying to understand what exactly he means with his words. Barry explains that the manager told him that it is customary to serve only premium alcohol to the rich, not just any cola, and this is their signature approach. The owner of the establishment immediately turns to the manager and declares that he is fired, and all the elite restaurants in the city will find out about it. After some time, Barry's sister says goodbye to her older friend and thanks her for the great help she has given her during their acquaintance. This friend turns out to be Yamada, who says that she needs to go the other way, as she has her own affairs and plans. Sister Barry smiles and says that she is very glad to meet such a polite and wise mentor who taught her a lot. At that moment, she remembers Yamada's advice on which books to take and which lectures to attend in order to be at her best. The girl understands that she received this advice from the top-ranked brilliant student and the main beauty of the university. She muses that if she were a guy, she would immediately fall in love with this girl, but then wonders if she has a boyfriend. Unfortunately, her pleasant thoughts are interrupted by the deathly silence that sets in as soon as she enters her room. She looks at her neighbors and asks what they are chatting about, noticing a strange, evil grin on their faces, which is clearly not good. Looking around, she also discovers that her books have been thrown into the trash bin, which leaves her shocked and confused. Barry's sister immediately picks up the books and asks her neighbors why her textbooks ended up in the trash can, because that's too cruel. One of the neighbors replies that she saw the books lying on the floor and thought that she didn't need them, so she decided to get rid of them. Then, the same neighbor asks what happened to her bed, noticing that it is flooded with water, as if someone had caused a flood there. Another neighbor indifferently says that they accidentally spilled water on her and do not understand why she started to quarrel and make a scene because of this. Another girl looks at Barry's sister angrily and asks what's wrong with that, as if it's no big deal and everyone does it. Barry's sister understands that they are deliberately trying to provoke her into conflict, but decides not to succumb to provocations and remain calm. Immediately after this, she stands up, giving everyone her menacing look, while her eyes burn with unwavering determination, and it becomes clear that she has only one way left to resolve this situation. The naive students look at their rival with confusion and do not suspect for a second what kind of trouble they have gotten themselves into, and that the consequences will be much more serious than they expected. To understand how this all ended, we are transported to the next morning, because Barry was called to the university to investigate the incident. As Barry heads upstairs, he wonders and can't believe that someone else would dare to hurt his little sister, because he's not someone to be trifled with. Without thinking twice, he enters the principal's office and immediately turns to his sister, asking her if she is okay after what happened. Barry's sister turns her gaze to him, calm and confident, which suggests that everything is really fine with her, and she will cope with all the difficulties. As for her rivals, they look as if there is not a single living spot left on them, scared and morally beaten. Barry doesn't notice this, and firmly states that he will definitely stand up for his sister. No matter what happens, he will not let her go lower. The teacher calmly informs her that there has been a case of severe bullying in the dorm where Barry's sister lives, and the situation requires immediate attention. Barry greets the teacher, saying that he is already more or less aware of the whole situation and intends to sort everything out fairly. He also stresses that he considers such serious incidents too important to be ignored, otherwise something much worse could happen. The teacher agrees and says that the school has the same position, which is why Barry was invited to the conversation. Without thinking twice, she turns to Barry's sister and asks if she has anything to add regarding the bullying accusations from her neighbors. Barry looks at the teacher in surprise and asks if she really means that his sister is the aggressor in this situation. The students start crying loudly and say that even their mothers never scolded or offended them like that it is unfair. Barry turns to his sister and asks if the accusations are true, to which she merely chuckles, not backing down. We are briefly transported back in time to understand what exactly his sister did and why this whole story started. She states that if things have gone this far, then she is obliged to help her neighbors raise the necessary amount, no matter what it takes. In the blink of an eye, she pounces on one of the students and grabs her by the hair, showing that she is not joking. Ripping a lock of hair from her head, she says that going bald won't save the situation, and that she'd better come to terms with reality instead of making a scene. Immediately after this, she grabs another neighbor who tried to offend her with a wet rag and says that now she will sleep on another bed. One of the offenders asks the last student standing to stand up for them and rushes into battle, but Barry's sister is a star person, and even in the face of a physically superior opponent, she holds her own confidently and does not allow herself to be broken. She knocked the girl to the floor with incredible ease, despite the difference in weight, and it showed that she was not someone who could be easily dealt with. Proudly declares that the girls from their family are no weaker than the guys, and in general, it is better not to mess with her. At this point, Barry suddenly remembers that in terms of ferocity, he's not even close to his sister. He's got to move himself. He immediately begins to defend her, saying that why on earth would his sister behave like that if she is fine and not an aggressor? A teacher named Cherry asks Barry to step aside for a moment to discuss the matter in a more private and calm setting. She says there may be more to the incident, as 3 students are telling the same story, and Barry's sister has admitted her guilt. She also emphasizes that it is essential to find out all the details in order to understand and avoid similar situations in the future. Barry says that he understood the teacher perfectly well, and asks to be given freedom of action, so that he can find out the whole truth on his own. After a while, he approaches 3 students and says that they need to come out and talk to settle this situation once and for all. The girls say that the matter is not that simple, and if he wants to resolve everything, he should show a little kindness and sincerity. Barry snaps his fingers and says that's exactly what he thought. There has to be sincerity involved in this matter, otherwise there's no other way. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a courier appears and announces that his urgent delivery has finally arrived, and this could change everything. After some time, the courier dumps a pile of handbags and several expensive factory-made items in front of the students, clearly not for free. Looking at such a bribe, girls say that this gift will be quite acceptable for true sincerity, and perhaps will solve everything. But Barry suddenly throws it all on the floor so the girls can pick up the gifts from the ground themselves, showing that money doesn't solve everything. He says that he can easily offer something like that, but he is not sure that these girls are worthy of accepting such gifts from him. He then asks why they attacked his sister, because if it weren't for their provocations, she would have no reason to do so. The girls exchange glances, and Barry immediately guesses that something is wrong here, and that there is a much deeper intrigue hidden. He says that he can pay 2 or 3 times, or even 100 times, the amount they were given, but sooner or later he will still get to the truth. He also states that if he gets to the bottom of the truth himself, he will tell about what happened on the school radio so that no one can hush up the story. The students give in and admit that they were paid by a guy from their department, and he asks them to frame Barry's sister in order to take her out of the game. One of the students shows him a photo of this man and says that his name is Jeff, and he is the one who started everything. Barry looks closely at the photo, trying to remember all the facial features so as not to lose sight of this important character. After some time, the scene moves to a single university apartment, where his sister now lives. Barry makes a bed for his sister, and tells her that now she doesn't have to go back to the dorm, but can live here safely and peacefully. His sister says that he is the best brother in the world and declares that in that case she will go and look around to meet new friends. Meanwhile, Yamada is doing her chores in the apartment and notices that she has a clogged pipe. The girl cannot understand why the pipe suddenly broke, and now the water does not drain, creating a problem that needs to be solved urgently. Thinking about calling someone competent, Yamada gets up from his seat and sees Barry's sister standing in the distance. The girl asks Yamada with a happy smile if she also lives here, showing that she is glad to meet a familiar person. Yamada feels incredibly tired, but still smiles faster than the protagonist, asking her what she is doing here. Barry's sister comes into her friend's apartment and says that apparently she has a leaking pipe. Yamada says that this is indeed the case and she is going to call a specialist, but the girl states that she understands these things. Yamada looks at her in surprise and says that she never expected the girl to have such skills. Barry's sister carefully examines the pipes and says that she can safely trust her in this matter as well. Meanwhile, Barry feels a strange sensation, as if someone near him has a mysterious aura. Passing by the open doors, noticing that Yamada is still nearby, he asks her what she is doing here. Yamada turns around and recognizes him as the same guy from the hospital who helped her get out of a difficult situation. Barry comes closer to her and tells her that she should give him a tour of the university, not hiding his sincere smile. Yamada says that if he broke into the women's dorm for this reason, then most likely he will have to call security. Barry freezes in place and wonders if this girl assumes he's trying to get her. In turn, he points to his sister and says that this silly girl is his sister, and he came to help her with settling in. The system immediately notifies him that there is a very trusting girl in front of him who needs to be saved from the situation. Barry's sister gets to her feet and asks him if he knows Sister Yamada, then asks her to check if the pipe is okay. Yamada asks her if she was able to do it so quickly, to which she just smiles and dusts off her hands. Barry, meanwhile, is deep in thought and realizes that he never expected that this girl would need to be saved. Meanwhile, Yamada praises Barry's sister, saying that she didn't expect the problem to be so easily solved. However, as soon as this unfortunate girl touches the tap, it begins to douse her with too much water pressure. Before Yamada can react, she suddenly finds herself completely soaking wet. Barry's sister laughs and says that apparently she made a mistake somewhere. Barry, because he thinks that what he was failing at has been solved, but he still doesn't understand what he needs to do. Barry also can't figure out how to figure out the situation that requires saving this very proud and not stupid girl. That's it. Barry's sister asks him if he's thinking about Yamada again, which brings a small smile to his face. She immediately starts the game, saying that she will give birth to his happy future. She, as a younger sister, is ready for everything and will collect information. After a while, the door to the apartment opens, and Yamada decides to go in there to talk to Barry's sister. Having completely changed her clothes, she says that if everything is okay, she is ready to go for a walk. Barry's sister asks her if she would like to go for a walk with her alone, adding that she will not be taking her brother with her. Yamada smiles and says that she agrees to such a proposal, adding that she will also show him the best cafeteria nearby. Barry understands that this girl is very cautious, and hopes that his sister will be able to extract the necessary information. He himself decides to take advantage of this moment of peace in order to do the very thing that is of primary importance to him. Instead, the action moves to a highway called Red Mountain, where Barry arrives on instructions from the students who recently attacked his sister. Having called one of them, he asks her if he is really in the right place. The girl answers him sincerely, because she found out everything from a reliable source, and Jeff is definitely here. Barry looks around carefully, spotting his target. He says that this time he forgives them, adding that he does not want something like this to happen again. The students thank him for forgiving them, adding that they no longer have any motivation to work with this man. Barry goes forward, but is stopped by a security guard who says that entry is prohibited. Barry asks him why he can't go in there, to which he replies that this entrance is for race participants only. Barry looks around for a possible solution to his problem. He looks at the nearby mopeds and asks him who they belong to which the guard replies that it is his work vehicle. Barry, without further ado, hands the man a stack of very large bills and tells him that he is buying this vehicle. The security guard looks at the gigantic sum, realizing that he has never seen such figures in his entire life. Meanwhile, Barry gets on a decrepit motorcycle and says that the equipment on this vehicle is actually quite good. Meanwhile, several drivers appear on the track, praising each other's cars as they prepare to be resurrected in the competition. One of them says that Jeff clearly invested a lot of money in this car in the hopes of winning. Jeff smiles and says that he just modified this car and installed original parts from famous brands. He also says that he saved up for all this for several months, and now he can finally take this car out on the track. After a while, he turns around and sees a man on a motorcycle rapidly approaching next to him. Barry unmistakably identifies his opponent, and his vehicle rushes forward to take revenge. Once he gets close to him, he jumps into the air in order to crash into his car. Taking careful aim, he lands on the road car, leaving numerous scratches on it and also violently breaking the windshield. Taking off his helmet, he says that if this car falls apart from a head blow, then there is something wrong with its quality. Jeff looks at his face in surprise because he just stopped to wreck his favorite car, which he just finished restoring. Looking at the protagonist, he orders him to get off immediately if he doesn't want to get into trouble. After that, he falls to his knees and says that he didn't even have time to push this car out. Barry smiles and says that he will have no problem paying for the repairs to this car if it is needed. Immediately after this, he grabs Jeff by the collar and says that he will definitely take revenge for what they tried to unite. Jeff looks at him and asks if he is the same jerk from Starbucks. Throwing it aside, Barry says that it was precisely because of this consequence of his actions that his brother suffered, who went abroad. Jeff suggests they have a race, and if he wins, Barry will have to fix his car on his lap. Barry looks at him with a smirk and replies that if he wins, then Jeff will kneel down and beg his sister for forgiveness. Jeff asks the protagonist where his car is, which he will use to participate in the race. Barry points to his electric motorcycle and says the battery is charged and he's ready to go for a ride. Jeff looks at him and asks if he's out of his mind, implying that an electric motorcycle can't be faster than a sports car. However, Barry insists on his own and is preparing to win this race. As soon as the countdown ends, the cars take off, leaving the protagonist far behind. Jeff takes the lead despite his car sustaining minor damage. Feeling the pleasant hum of the engine, he understands that the money invested has clearly paid off, and this car will bring him a fortune. He also looks in the rearview mirror and realizes that he can't just leave this bastard behind. Slowing down a bit, he says that this way Barry won't even see his exhaust, suggesting that they give up right away. Barry continues to ride his electric moped and asks his opponent why he is fussing so much. Immediately after this, he takes out his phone and asks his comrades if everything is ready. Helicopters arrive on the scene and tell him that they are ready to begin the operation. One of the employees throws special thorns onto the asphalt in order to cause a car accident. The unsuspecting racers don't even think about slowing down and rush forward. These thorns are very sharp, so even the thick rubber of a sports car is instantly punctured. The innocent racer somehow miraculously does not lose control completely and does not fall down. Getting out of their cars, they wonder where the thorns came from, trying to understand what happened on the highway. Jeff is glad that his tires have championship durability. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to control the car. A few more seconds pass and he notices Barry rushing past him at incredible speed. Barry easily navigates around the thorns and realizes that he has thus secured victory in this competition. He says that this is the power of the eternal battles for the road with the couriers, tactfully keeping silent about the fact that he simply cheated in order to win. Jeff, meanwhile, realizes that he can't let this impudent guy win. Catching up with him at full speed, he realizes that this turn is his chance to get ahead. He is preparing to smear his opponent against the wall, just to prevent him from getting ahead. Barry looks at his opponent in surprise and does not understand why he is behaving unsportsmanlike. Jeff angrily says that if Barry does that, it will only make things worse for him, since he has no intention of putting on the brakes. The protagonist understands that he needs to take urgent action if he wants to get out of here alive. Jeff loses control of his car and crashes into one of the stone walls. Quickly getting out, he looks around in search of his victim and tries to figure out where she went. Raising his head up, he hears the loud roar of a helicopter and tries to understand where the air transport came from. Barry appears behind him and says he's lucky he can fly. Jeff turns to face his opponent, trying to figure out what the hell is going on as Barry lands softly on his feet. Barry says that he won't get far with that look, and then orders him to get on his knees. Taking out his phone, he says that he will carefully write down an apology for his sister. Jeff says he didn't sign up for this kind of racing, and Barry continues to insist that the competition was fair, and Jeff should be held accountable for his words. Suddenly, they are interrupted by one of the race participants, who says that according to the agreement, permission should go to the winner. Barry agrees, to which the young man replies that he won this race, which means Jeff doesn't owe him anything. Jeff is happy, realizing that he lost. But Barry didn't win anything either. Barry suddenly decides to challenge his opponent's honesty, saying that he will not tolerate verbal tricks. He states that if someone does not want to sort things out the easy way, then he is ready for more severe measures. Jeff gets to his feet and prepares to fight his opponent, trying to figure out what he intends to do. Suddenly, he finds himself being quickly approached by Yamada, who clearly does not have the best intentions. She runs up quickly and delivers a powerful slap that causes Jeff to stagger to the side. Yamada says that if his father never beat him, then she makes every effort to raise him to be a normal person. Jeff looks at her with an offended expression and calls her his sister, trying to understand why she is so ruthless. Barry watches what is happening with undisguised surprise, as he did not expect such a development of events. A few hours pass, and Yamada asks if his parents really sent him to university to do all this nonsense. She says he has disappointed her, and she will be forced to block his credit card to make him realize his mistake. Jeff immediately falls to his knees in front of his sister, apologizes to her, and tells her that he finally realized that he was wrong. Barry watches what is happening, and in a generally timely manner, asks if Yamada is Jeff's sister. Yamada says that they are indeed siblings, but she took her father's surname and he took his mother's surname. Barry's sister says she asked Yamada why she was renting a single-occupancy dorm, and once she got an explanation, she came here in anger. Looking at her brother, she asks him what he is doing here at such a late hour. The winner, standing nearby the whole time, says that Jeff should apologize. The winner of this race adds that both sides must give in to each other and show mutual respect. He also introduces himself, and Barry says that he is already tired of seeing people from this family because they try to put on too much airs. The winner of the race, angry, looks at Barry and tries to understand what kind of impudent guy this guy is and why he talks to him like that. Barry states that he doesn't care about the disrespect or even part of the family because a loss is a loss. Not only with words, he walks up to the car and smashes it to pieces with a powerful blow. Jeff looks at what is happening in shock and falls to his knees again. Immediately after this, Barry begins to pressure him with words that if his legs don't want to bend, then he will help with this matter. Jeff tries to seek support from his sister, but she refuses him, saying that he must be responsible for his own actions. Jeff realizes that he has no other choice, and turns to the protagonist's sister for help. Falling to his knees, he asks her for forgiveness so that he can finally get rid of this humiliating situation. Barry decides to bring the man down a little further and orders him to speak louder so his sister can hear. The winner of the race can't forgive the main character for insulting him. After a while, he begins to smile, realizing that this outcome is far from the worst. Barry's sister gets tired of this pointless circus and says she wants to go home. Yamada says there is a shopping mall nearby where you can buy good clothes and household appliances at a discount. Barry's sister notes that they have roughly the same sets of clothes and could swap, but is immediately told that this is unlikely to happen. He thinks that his sister is too naive, because it is immediately obvious from the two girls that they have different shapes. Barry's sister and Yamada quickly turn their gaze to him, trying to understand why he decided to intervene in the conversation. They try to ask him who asked him at all and why he decided to insert his opinion. Barry realizes that he accidentally thought out loud and says that his words should not be paid special attention to. The winner of the race, Gray the Terrible, asks what happened between Yamada and Barry. Jeff realizes that this is a great chance to sort things out with his friend. Turning to his sister, he says that it would be better if they went down in Gray's car, since it was already dark and the road was unsafe. Gray smiles, thinking that this is a great idea and it will help him get this girl. He smiles mysteriously as he looks at Yamada, not revealing his rather insidious intentions. Yamada says that she doesn't like driving sports cars, so his concern seems a little excessive to her. Gray says with feigned politeness that it is a sports car, but it is quite spacious. He also says that if Yamada doesn't want to ride a sports car, then an even worse decision would be to try to get on this old moped. His theatrical tirade is interrupted by the sound of an ordinary car suddenly stopping on the highway. Gray begins to frown unpleasantly, looking at the bright beams of the headlights of this car. Behind the wheel is none other than Frank, who wonders what this wreck is standing right on the road. After thinking, he opens the doors and goes outside to look around and understand who is in front of him. A sly smile immediately spreads across his face, and he says that this guy is the second young master of the Gray family. He asks him if he's not ashamed to drive a cheap wreck for $2 million, after which he asks him what he's doing here. Frank immediately states that he is not someone who only knows how to spend his parents' money, because he earned his car with his own hands. Gray says that without the help of his family, Frank would not have been able to lift a finger and would have spent his entire life working for pennies until he was exhausted. Frank ignores the taunts and approaches Barry, saying that he didn't expect to meet him here and that he might let him down. Coming even closer, he begins to whisper something to Barry, clearly concerning the assignment he received recently. A few seconds later, Frank turns to Barry's friends and tells them they can get into his car. Barry's sister asks her brother if the man can be trusted, expressing suspicion that he may be a human trafficker. Frank says he's never heard a girl insult him like that, and Barry says no one will steal her. Barry's sister takes Yamada's hand and says that the car looks quite spacious, which means it will be possible to get home. Frank tells his new friend that he can sit forward so that he can be more comfortable. Jeff approaches Gray, apologizes, and says he did his best. Gray starts to get very angry, but immediately calms down, realizing that he had been watching this fat sheep for a long time and he can't lose his head now. A sly smile appears on his face, and he asks young Jeff if he has heard anything about his business with his family. Jeff says he's trying to stay out of it, and Gray says his sister knows, and their father has already handed over control of the company to her. Gray adds that if this continues, Jeff will be in trouble, and he doesn't want to live under his sister's control for the rest of his life. Jeff looks at his friend in shock and asks him what he suggests doing to resolve this situation. Gray smiles very slyly, building in his head the most vile schemes that a person can come up with. Meanwhile, Frank drives Barry and his girlfriends home as quickly as possible so they have time to get some sleep before the big day. Barry asks Frank what happened between him and the guy, noting that there was clearly some kind of conflict between them. Frank explains that the guy is the second son of his family, and that the word conflict is too strong a word, because he is more of a disgrace to their circle of heirs. Barry says that this sounds very interesting and asks to tell him more about it. Frank describes a typical rich kid who doesn't make trouble, doesn't fight, hangs out with girls, and always comes first in exams. Yamada notes that there is nothing wrong with this, but is immediately rebuffed by Frank. He explains that because of this behavior, his father beat him since childhood because he could not act like Gray, and lectured him. Barry understands why the girls say Frank seems like a bad boy. After some time, Yamada asks to stop the car and says that she will go on by herself. She thanks everyone for this evening and heads towards the student building. Barry says there's still about 1 kilometer left, and his sister replies that Yamada doesn't like to draw attention to himself at the university. Immediately, the sister jumps out of the car and says that she wants to go with Yamada, to which she agrees. Barry notes that his sister seems smart, but is still a rather naive girl. Frank laughs at this, saying that Barry doesn't sit around doing nothing and hangs out with such powerful and beautiful girls. Barry changes the subject and reminds Frank that he was talking about some news recently. This refers to a recent event when Frank came closer to him to whisper something. Frank says that he has found the 3 people Barry was looking for, and that he already has them under his control. He also states that he puts a little pressure on them and quickly gets to those behind these people. Barry asks what they would do if the police suddenly appeared on the screen, to which Frank states that he has no intention of breaking the law. He adds that sometimes you have to be more clever, because it's not necessarily a bad thing. After a while, the car stops at a nightclub, and Frank says that as soon as he gets out, he will do everything himself. Barry gets out of the car, looks around and notices the ornate entrance of the club. There are several girls standing near the entrance looking at Frank's car, and one of them says that this car is just crazy. Her friend confirms that such a car costs a lot of money, and there are only a few dozen of them throughout the country. A girl approaches Frank and tells him that he has a really cool car, trying to get to know him. Frank smiles and replies that he will definitely meet her, but now he has things to do, and later he will definitely find her. The girl asks her not to lie and says that she will wait for him. Barry asks what's going on here, to which Frank replies that sometimes money isn't everything. After a while they pass by clubs full of model-looking girls. The club has a rather noisy and relaxed atmosphere that will lift the spirits of even the most serious people. In one of the rooms sits a whole trio of bandits, led by the very man who attacked Barry. Frank tells the protagonist that these people are in the next room and have not gone out for 2 days in a row. Sitting down on the sofa, he adds that only his people are there, so no news will leak out. After a while, the manager comes up to them and says that he is very glad to see Frank, adding that he is always at his service. Barry turns to the manager and asks if it's okay to record videos in here. The manager replies that such actions are prohibited by law and the rules of the establishment. Barry tries to bribe the manager by quickly tossing him a coin of incredible value. The manager looks at the coin in surprise, but picks it up from the floor. Barry says he only needs 1 video of the guys in the next room. He adds that if the manager is not satisfied, he is ready to add another tip to the amount of 5 million yen. The manager starts shaking and says that even for that kind of money, it's impossible to shoot a video here. Barry tries to get his money back and says he didn't expect such integrity from his manager. However, the manager quickly stops him and says that he has not finished his thought. He says video is too boring and suggests organizing a live broadcast. Some time passes, and the club staff brings in a real monitor with wires connected. After setting up the live broadcast, the manager says that if they need anything else, they can just call him. Frank says in surprise that he always considered himself a tough guy, but it turns out that money can be spent in this way. Barry says he would never watch such a thing, but sometimes you have to do the not-so-pleasant work, even if you don't want to. Frank nervously asks the protagonist what he would have done to him if he had not given up then, but he remains silent. They both watch what is happening on the screen closely and understand that this is one of the biggest mistakes in their lives. A mafia member tries to molest one of the girls by licking her face. The girl says that his methods are too harsh, and that this will require a separate surcharge. The mafia boss smiles and says that the naive girl simply doesn't know what methods his boss uses. He tells her with such a serious look that his boss, in order to start dating a student, went to extreme measures and even staged a whole scam in the hospital. Simply epic, like something out of a crime series. The girl is perplexed and asks him why bother with this student at all, if everything could be solved much more simply and without such hassle. The mafia boss smiles slyly, subduedly, as if to say, "Come closer, girl, and I'll tell you everything," because such secrets must be whispered. He claims that their bosses not only love rescuing girls, but actually get a kick out of much more interesting and darker cases. Just like the plot of a crime thriller. He says that his boss gets a wild thrill from the fact that his partner is at rock bottom. For him, it's like a game where he controls everything. He asks her to imagine a situation where a girl is first publicly shamed, and when she's on the verge of despair, he appears again and saves her. He says it's a clever move, and he claims that in such a situation, this girl will believe in him for the rest of her life, obey and do everything he says, the perfect way to gain control. In his opinion, this is just the perfect plan to get a very hot and dangerously attractive beauty under his control, just like in mafia movies. The club girl adds that for this, their bosses need real cooperation and answers to questions about how much this girl is suffering now. The bandit grins and says that nothing really happened to the girl because one idiot screwed everything up and managed to get away. That's the twist. Barry listens carefully to their conversation and finally understands who is behind this whole dirty scam. The puzzle finally fits together. He also understands why these people came to him after he stopped that very medical scam in the hospital. It is clear that it is connected. The girl asks who his voice is, adding that she simply does not want to ever cross paths with this person, fear and hatred in one. The bandit smiles again and says that he would never tell a stranger who he works for. A sort of vow of silence. Soon another bandit enters the room and says that he managed to come to an agreement with the people from the hotel, which means that the couple is already preparing for the birthday party. The intrigue is growing. The main bandit says that they need to hurry because if they are late, the boss will punish them severely. A time bomb. Barry takes a close look at the lead bandit and deduces that he most likely belongs to one of the mafia families. A trademark sign of danger. Barry thinks to himself that he will definitely make this man regret it, because he is fighting for the woman he cares about. Eternal drama. Barry states that he has found out everything he needs to know and asks if he's going to stay here. It's time to expose the truth. Frank grins and says that he definitely doesn't plan on going anywhere, because there's a beautiful girl waiting for him on the street. Romance in a criminal setting. Quickly coming to his senses, he adds that in fact he is here because of a sense of duty, and therefore he will continue to monitor the bandits. Each has his own motives. Barry leaves the room, saying that if Frank has any news, he should let him know immediately. This is top-notch teamwork. Barry muses that even if that's the case, Yamada probably isn't the main victim. There's something deeper and more terrible going on. He wonders who else is there, who is being hunted, when he immediately receives a system notification. An unexpected turn. The system informs that a large victim has been found nearby, and if you help it, the reward will be even better. The incentive in the game increases. Meanwhile, one of the already well-known scoundrels meets a new girl and says that he did not expect to see her in such clothes. A hint at crisis and change. This girl turns out to be Cherry's teacher, who has serious financial difficulties. A typical school drama, but with a criminal twist. Cherry asks the villain what she should do next, but he reaches out to grope her a little. Not the most pleasant moment. She reminds him that he promised her that if she dressed in these clothes, she would be given a deferment of another 3 months, an attempt to negotiate. The villain mocks Cherry, calling her a naive joker, because no one would just give 100,000 for black stockings. Hardcore realism. His partner adds that if such things were possible, she would be last in line, and recommends that she undress, directly and to the point. Cherry indignantly says that they were promised that if she fulfilled their conditions, they would meet her halfway. The last hope. The scoundrel tells her not to rush, and adds that they came here to discuss all matters. The negotiations are taking place in a tense atmosphere. He invites her to come up to the dance floor and dance for just 5 minutes. A strange condition for business. He promises that if she dances, he will give her a 3-month deferment. To which Cherry replies that she doesn't know how to dance at all. Sincerely and funny. The villain explains that they expect a certain attitude from her in order to decide whether to help her or not. It's all about control and power. He asks if she wants her students or teachers to see how she missed their deadlines. Pressure and blackmail all rolled into one. Cherry agrees to these terms, but declares that she will not tolerate any more changes. A firm decision. The villain smiles, looking into her eyes, and says that she doesn't have to worry. Everything is under control. Cherry gets up on the dance floor, burning with shame and incredible embarrassment, because she has never done anything like this before. An emotional moment. The scoundrel thinks that those who have official jobs will still have to pay back the money eventually. A harsh reality. He also believes there is potential for some amazing games here. The suspense is building. In his opinion, when the girl finishes her performance and sees the video, this will allow her to be controlled, a psychological lever. Smiling, he realizes that he didn't think it was possible to get back into the game even after he found himself in a dead end. Goodbye? Defeat. For a moment he remembers how he was cheated at the bank, and how his dear sister-in-law immediately abandoned him when he found himself broke. A personal drama. Cherry tries not to think about what she has to do, so as not to take on too much responsibility. An internal struggle. Barry suddenly rises onto the metal and addresses her, telling her that she must not let herself be deceived. A savior at the most necessary moment. Cherry looks at him in surprise and asks what he is doing here, to which he replies that these people are trying to use her, revealing the truth. The villain asks him who he is and what he is up to here, disrupting their plans. The conflict escalates. Barry looks at his opponent and asks if he has already lost his memory or not, adding that he can easily get it back. A threat with a slight hint of sarcasm. The vile moneylender begins to get angry, realizing that he is faced with the man who put him in the most terrible position. A classic antagonist. But this time, reality gives Barry more confidence, and he says that a debt must always be repaid, a moral principle. He asks the moneylender what he plans to do, to which Barry replies that debts should indeed always be repaid, a promise kept. The moneylender mentally asks himself whether this damned scoundrel will really bother him again. The game of survival has begun. Barry turns to the teacher and says that he has something very important to tell her, and right now it is really serious. He explains that if she has evidence that those who gave them the loan set an astronomical interest rate on top and used violent methods, then all this can be disputed and the money returned. Cherry asks him with surprise and disbelief if these words are really true, because she simply does not believe that she can be so lucky in such a difficult situation. The moneylender's partner skeptically notes that all this seems to him to be some kind of deception, since all the contracts were signed on paper, and everything was drawn up according to the law. Barry, without losing confidence, says that if he finds out that his opponent is involved in illegal cash schemes, hiding behind loans, or committing fraud, then the consequences will be much worse. Coming closer, he asks the scoundrel who was the loan shark's partner whether the bank refused him a loan and says that an investigation needs to be conducted to understand where he got such capital from. The supplier is gradually starting to give up his position and states that in this case he can at least return part of the money himself. Barry looks at him sternly and demands that he explain his words more clearly and loudly, as if checking to see if he is trying to escape responsibility. The villain's nerves fail him. He runs away in panic, shouting that he will not take any more money and asks Cherry not to get involved with him in the future. After some time, Barry and Cherry leave the nightclub and she thanks him for saving her from this dangerous situation. Barry finally introduces himself fully, stating his first and last name, and tries to understand why the student needed so much money. Cherry explains that her father was in an accident and urgently needs money for treatment, but she was unable to earn any other way. Barry warns her that she needs to be much more careful in the future, because there are plenty of people out there who want to take advantage of someone as gullible as she is. Cherry sadly admits that she always taught her students not to get involved with dubious people, but when she herself found herself in trouble, she could not resist and fell into this trap. She also considers herself a failure, but Barry immediately tells her that she shouldn't blame herself for what happened. He adds that it is late now and calls a taxi to take her to the university, but Cherry asks him not to. She explains that she won't be able to return at 3 in the morning in such inappropriate clothes and feels uncomfortable. Barry asks where she's going to go then, and Cherry nods, saying she has no other choice. Barry decides to take her to safety, and soon a decent hotel appears in front of them where they can stay. They walk carefully around, trying not to attract attention to themselves and not to let anyone follow them. Approaching the reception, Barry asks the employee to help book a room for them. The employee replies that it will take a little time, while her partner, tired, yawns nearby. However, after some time, the tired girl turns her gaze to Barry and immediately freezes in surprise, as if she recognized someone very important. Taking a closer look, she realizes there is no room for error and watches him closely as he talks to Cherry. Barry tries to convey some important information to her, but she suddenly calls him too affectionately, which causes slight embarrassment. The girl begins to feel embarrassed and realizes that she said this completely unconsciously, simply in gratitude for the fact that he saved her. Meanwhile, 2 hotel employees are talking to each other, and the manager asks his colleague to pay special attention to Barry. She shows her the photos on her phone and says that this is the same person they were warned about in advance. The receptionists look closely at the photo, then turn their gaze to Barry and realize that he really is the same person. In a whisper, one of the girls tells her colleague that it is him, and the situation becomes tense. The girls consult among themselves, deciding what to do to get out of this difficult situation. Barry asks in surprise if the room reservation is not ready yet, at which point the manager steps forward to explain the situation. The manager smiles and says that the room they booked is no longer available, but they do have themed suites that they are willing to offer for free. After this, the receptionists rush upstairs at incredible speed to prepare this theme number. Cherry says she's never encountered a service like this before, to which Barry replies that it's probably some kind of scam to push through the payment. The manager smiles and claims that their hotel never engages in such scams and asks them to come with her to inspect the room. Barry looks at the manager carefully and says that he agrees to check the room before checking in. The manager escorts them out and tells them that they can feel at home here. Meanwhile, Frank, who is also at the hotel, is talking to his new friend, who is wondering if it is possible to buy special candles here. Looking around, he suddenly notices Barry, but decides not to greet him so as not to ruin the moment. Barry, meanwhile, sees Cherry off and ends up on the right floor, making his way to the room. The manager explains that this floor is for theme rooms, and now they can go up here directly from the first floor. Barry looks around in surprise and wonders why this theme room looks so serious and unusual. The manager explains that they will have everything they need at their disposal: a waterbed, a hanging chair, and a two-person bathtub. Cherry, meanwhile, decides to look around the other rooms, opens one of the doors, and suddenly freezes in place, screaming loudly in surprise. Barry comes closer, asks what happened, and decides to find out for himself what exactly confused his companion so much. It turns out that this room contains all sorts of devices for themed games of a rather adult nature, which clearly shocked her. Cherry tries to find out from the manager what all this means, to which she explains with a smile that all consumables are disposable, completely safe, and are thoroughly cleaned. Barry tries to clarify everything and says that they are not renting the room for such purposes, but the manager notes that if they need anything, they can always call. Immediately after this, the smiling girl opens the door to go out into the hallway, leaving Barry and Cherry alone with each other. Barry turns to his companion and says that he needs to take care of his business, and that he only needs to stay in this strange room for one night. Cherry gently touches his elbow, trying to hold it a little. She says she wants to tell him something very important that might interest him. Barry tenses up when he hears this and says he's listening to her carefully. Cherry says she really wants to apologize for that situation with his sister, because she didn't know she was being egged on. Barry is relieved to realize that the main problem is that Cherry is plagued with guilt. He tells her that he has already spoken to the main participant in that story, and his sister has moved into a separate apartment, so there is nothing to worry about. Cherry asks if she can find out his sister's address because she would like to talk to her in person. Barry says that he has no problem trusting her with this information, because he considers her a reliable person. After some time, he finally enters the elevator and finds himself on the first floor, where a familiar person is already waiting for him. Frank says he seems to have found Barry's weak spot, even though he didn't even try to look for it. Barry asks what he's doing here, to which Frank states that he himself saw Barry take a girl into the hotel. Frank adds that he can share a good recipe for improving health, including intimate health. Barry says he just ran into a friend of his sister's and wanted to make sure she was settled in well. Frank smirks and says he knows how it is. Sister's friend during the day, no longer her friend at night. At this moment, the hotel manager approaches them and addresses Barry in a rather formal tone. She asks if they are about to leave already, and wonders if there were any problems with the service. Barry says he didn't plan to stop here and tries to figure out what the problem is with his location. The manager starts nervously saying that Barry showed up unexpectedly, and if something wasn't up to par, they'll fix it. Barry looks at her in surprise and asks what kind of inspection she is talking about. The manager replies that she thought he came for this very purpose. Barry says he doesn't understand anything, and the manager looks at him with confusion. He asks why he should check anything at all in this hotel. The manager replies that he is now the largest shareholder. She explains that an official notice had recently arrived, and she assumed that he had come here for an inspection. At this point, Barry receives a system notification about a reward for acquiring a controlling stake in this hotel. Frank laughs and says that Barry knows how to have fun. He leans closer and adds that he wouldn't have thought to buy an entire hotel so that no one would leave a trace. Barry contacts the manager and asks her to thoroughly check this guy and his companions, and in case of violations, not to allow them to check in. The manager immediately states that he will fulfill this request immediately. Frank asks Barry to have mercy and says that he has already bought all the props and does not want to disappoint his companion. He then turns to the manager and assures her that she shouldn't worry. He was just joking, since he is close to their boss. Barry, meanwhile, goes outside, looks around and realizes that he has a lot of work ahead of him. After some time, he goes to the hospital to visit his best friend's aunt. She asks him how the stew tastes, to which he replies that it feels like he stepped back in time. His friend's aunt says that she is now healthy, can dance again, and that even old people ask her for her phone number. Barry's friend tells him that he will return the remaining amount through the same channel to finally get rid of the debts. Barry asks if he really intends to return the entire amount, and advises that it would be better to spend it on a wedding with a girl. Yamaguchi says that it's better not to remind him about it because he's having some difficulties. Barry says that if there is something worth talking about, it is better to share it right away. Yamaguchi admits that his girlfriend has started avoiding him and has been acting strangely lately. Barry asks if she still works at the same dealership. After a few moments, he gets to his feet and suggests that they look at the cars and go for a walk. Some time later, they find themselves in an elite car dealership located in a tall building. Barry and Yamaguchi walk around the main hall and look at expensive cars, each of which costs a fortune. A Yamaguchi girl named Sarah greets them and asks what they are doing here. Yamaguchi says he came to look at the cars and asks if she needs help with sales. Sarah happily replies that she has just a little time to walk around and discuss cars. Yamaguchi notices a strange mark on her knee and asks what it is. Sarah immediately becomes nervous and says that she just got a little hurt at work and it's nothing serious. Yamaguchi asks how this happened, but the girl asks him to stop the interrogation. After a while, two girls approach her from behind and mockingly ask if she is now chasing a rich guy. They also add that they made her carry heavy materials, to which Yamaguchi asks them to speak with respect. He immediately turns to her and asks if these two girls are really her colleagues, to which Sarah replies that this is exactly the case. Barry intervenes in the conversation and asks Sarah with a grin since when she started working in a plastic surgery clinic, because her colleagues look like typical dolls from a shop window. The girls start to smile smugly, ignoring his provocations, and talk about remembering Sarah's poor boyfriend, whom she is dating. Sarah asks them point blank why, being so rich, they don't want to compensate her for the damage to the materials she broke the day before. One of the girls replies that Sarah herself couldn't stay on her feet and fell, breaking everything herself, and therefore there is nothing to ask of them. Another colleague starts laughing loudly and calls her a pauper who is trying to extract money from strangers. Sarah is reserved in saying that she accidentally knocked over the counter as she walked past, which is why everything fell. In fact, everything was not like that. Her colleagues deliberately pushed her so that she fell and broke the materials. As soon as Sarah hit her knees, her colleagues began to tease her and say that now she would owe money for the damaged materials. Yamaguchi says that he now understands where the bruises and abrasions came from, and sympathetically notes that it must have been very painful. Colleagues begin to aggressively attack Sarah, saying that she should not pretend to be a victim and a poor girl. Yamaguchi demands that they apologize immediately and says that they should not get into trouble. He starts to insist on his own, and says that he will not allow them to insult his girlfriend, and that they are obliged to apologize to her. A girl from their company looks at him in surprise and asks if he has gone crazy, threatening to sue him. In order to stop the growing conflict, the salon manager appears and demands to know what is going on here. He also angrily asks who dared to touch his female employees. One of the girls claims that she was grabbed by the hand, and that she became very scared because of it. At this moment, Abigail appears in the room, and immediately notices Barry among all this commotion. She approaches him and asks in surprise how he ended up here and what he is doing here. Barry looks at her in confusion, and asks a counter-question, not understanding what is happening. Abigail says she came to help her father with the contract approval, and wonders what the conflict was about. The salon manager and two arrogant employees look at Barry and his friends with suspicion and anger. The manager demands that they apologize to his employees and thus resolve the situation. Barry replies that they are not going to apologize, adding that the manager is clearly mentally ill if he seriously thinks that. The manager says that if he is not treated with respect, then he is not going to be polite either. Abigail says with cold calm that if he intends to continue in this tone, then she will take all the consequences upon herself. The manager asks in amazement what she means and why such threats. Abigail replies that their agreement could easily be set aside if the manager really insists on this kind of behavior. The manager wonders who this guy is that makes Abigail so angry and protective of him. Meanwhile, the girls say that they cannot apologize to this poor girl because it would be too humiliating. The manager realizes that losing the contract with Abigail's family could cost the salon millions in profits. One of the girls quickly changes her tone and says that if he is kind to them, they will reciprocate. Another one makes a flirtatious face and says that they can always offer him what he wants most. The manager states that his girls are not to blame in this situation, and if anything happens, they can contact the police. Abigail, with a stony expression, says that in that case she revokes their contract. Barry stops her and tells her not to go that far. Immediately after this, he turns around and walks away from the conflict. Abigail watches his actions in confusion, and the manager is relieved that a scandal was avoided. Barry goes outside with his friends and begins to think about his next move. Abigail apologizes to him and says she didn't mean to get him into trouble, but Barry replies that it's no problem for him. Abigail admits that she didn't expect him to be so kind, and just let these people go. Barry asks her with interest if she really thought he was taking revenge on all his enemies, to which Abigail replies that that was exactly the impression he gave. Yamaguchi confirms Abigail's words and says that she is absolutely right. Barry grins and notes that she is the one who is actually kind here. Meanwhile, the female employees whisper among themselves and say that tonight they will take revenge on their boss for everything he did. At this moment, the manager's phone suddenly rings, and he hurries to pick it up to figure out what's going on. The message he received made him fall silent and stare at the screen in horror. He asks himself in a panic whether all his car supplies have really been cut off. Looking through the list of brands that will no longer be supplied, he realizes that he is simply doomed to bankruptcy. He realizes that every missed order will cost him colossal losses and payments. A feeling of complete shock comes over him, and he realizes that everything is falling apart. Meanwhile, one of the employees teases him, asking if he has lost the power of speech. The enraged manager yells at them and demands that they get out of his sight immediately. He points to the second girl and tells her to also clean up and not come back to the salon. Barry smiles at this point and tells his companion that she just needs to wait a little while, and generous compensation will not be long in coming. After a while, they get into the car and go about their business. Sarah tells Barry that he just offered her a really nice car and asks if he's afraid she'll crash it. Barry replies that he wanted to test drive the car beforehand, at which point Sarah narrows her eyes and asks if he's trying to make her his personal driver. Barry admits that this is exactly what he is trying to achieve, adding that he will provide her with excellent conditions and social guarantees at the highest level, to which Sarah immediately agrees. Yamaguchi says that if she had told him earlier about those horrible girls at the car dealership, he would never have allowed her to endure such abuse. Sarah explains that she knew about his mother's illness, so she didn't want to distract him, understanding how hard it was for him. She adds that she just wanted to experience this moment, because for her it was just a trivial misunderstanding. Barry says he can hire them both as his drivers, as long as they don't get distracted. However, after some time he notices that a serious incident is about to happen on the road. He panics and shouts to Sarah that there is a car right in front of her, and she urgently needs to look ahead. Sarah immediately apologizes to her new boss, admitting that she made a mistake due to carelessness. After a while, they arrive at the main building, where Barry's old friend works. Jean goes outside and, seeing Barry, calls him a bastard for not remembering her yet. She also says that he was in such a hurry for her to get out, and now she wants to know what happened. Barry introduces Sarah to Jean and tells her that Jean will now be her new personal driver. Jana smiles and says that it has been a long time since she had such a serious privilege as being a personal driver. Sarah adds that Barry has already prepared a new car for her, which looks and drives absolutely amazing. Jana hugs Barry and says that at least he has a conscience, since it's not for nothing that he makes her run back and forth, renting a good office. Barry says he's happy to take a look around his new place of work, but first he needs to answer a phone call. He sees that Cherry is calling and, after answering, asks her what happened. Listening to her words, he is surprised to learn that Jeff somehow ended up in his sister's dorm. Without thinking twice, he says that he needs to get down to business immediately, and that it would be better for him and Jana to look around and get to know each other. Barry quickly turns around and heads towards the girl's dorm to get to the right place. Jana watches him with a tender gaze and thinks that next time she won't let him run away so easily. The action moves to a women's dormitory, where Barry and Yamada's sister have been living peacefully all this time. The cleaning lady chases after the obnoxious Jeff and screams that she will finish off this pathetic bastard who dared to enter the girls' dormitory. Cherry shields Jeff and claims that he is her student, but the cleaning lady does not believe her. She declares that no normal student would pick locks and rushes forward. Jeff jumps back in hopes of finding protection and accidentally crashes into Barry. He looks up in horror and realizes that standing in front of him is the very person he definitely doesn't want to see right now. Barry immediately grabs his arm so the rascal can't run away. He asks where he's going to run, to which Jeff panics and replies that if they don't let him go, his arm will just break. After this, Barry looks at him carefully and understands that he will have to interrogate him. Without letting Jeff say a word, he seals his mouth with a strong bandage. Cherry watches what is happening in surprise, but decides not to interfere because it all looks too strange. Some time ago, Jeff stood near the entrance to the dorm and thought about his plan. Gathering his strength, he decided to get inside to carry out his evil plan. Unfortunately, he was not careful enough. Cherry immediately noticed him. Jeff, looking around, reached one of the rooms. Making sure that no one was following him, he tried to pick the lock with a needle. However, he was too stupid to realize that he was being closely watched all this time. Cherry says that after this she brought the caretaker and immediately contacted Barry. She says that Jeff took some documents from Barry's sister's room and hands them to Barry. Barry looks closely at the documents and realizes that they have nothing to do with his sister. He tells Cherry that these things do not belong to his sister, to which she replies that they were taken from room 207. Barry calmly informs that his sister lives not in room 207, but in room 209. Cherry looks at him in shock, and at first cannot believe that she was so sadly mistaken. After this, she removes the bandage from Jeff's face and admits that she misunderstood him. Jeff immediately becomes nervous and says that if he is not allowed to explain himself, they will all face serious consequences. Barry suddenly drops the magazine and feels that something fishy is definitely going on here. He asks Cherry if his sister knows that this guy tried to come into her room. Barry says that he needs to call his sister and find out everything, to which Jeff defiantly replies that it is his personal business. A policewoman suddenly appears in the corridor and asks who called the police. A police officer named Tina listens carefully to all the witnesses and understands that the situation is clearly not simple. Jeff calls her aunt, and Tina guesses that the guy was clearly caught doing something serious. After this, she says that an official investigation needs to be started to find out who is right and who is wrong. She then looks at Barry and freezes in surprise for a moment. It turns out that Tina and Barry already know each other, and in the past they had quite close friendships and romantic ties. The scene moves to the police station where the interrogation is to take place. Barry feels extremely uncomfortable in this chair, but he has no other choice. Jeff and Yamada are also by his side while Tina tries to figure out what's going on. In a stern voice, she says that both sides need to speak out if they have something to say. Yamada apologizes and says that they are withdrawing the applications they recently submitted. Immediately after this, she says that they are leaving, but Jeff protests and states that they should receive compensation and an apology. He continues to insist, while his hysteria becomes more intense with each passing second. He also says that now he can't even raise his hand after being beaten. Yamada sternly asks him if he hasn't done enough yet and now wants to get even more. She also adds that she will remain silent about the documents for now, reminding him that his parents provided him with additional assistance every month. An angry Yamada says she will now tell her parents to cancel these payments as well. Jeff starts to lie and says that he delved into the documents in order to help her. Yamada says that it would be of great benefit if he simply did not interfere with her work. Having calmed down a little, she asks him if everything is okay with him, adding that she can take him to the hospital. Jeff says that he's actually okay, because his arm is healing pretty quickly. Barry says that if the statement is withdrawn, it means that he can leave here to do his own thing. Tina stops him abruptly, asking who told him he could go. She also says that the refusal to file a claim is only a minor administrative violation. But if the certificate indicates injuries more severe than minor, then this is already criminal liability. Tina also grabs the handcuffs and says that in this case she can easily detain him. Barry asks his interlocutor if there are any results of the examination, to which she replies that she does not have the results yet. Cherry is behind the door, trying to figure out what's going on, hoping that her friend won't be detained. Unable to bear the nervous tension, she opens the door and says that she can confirm everything that is needed. Cherry talks about what exactly Barry did, and asks Tina if this could somehow affect the decision to arrest him. During this emotional conversation, she calls Barry by a rather affectionate name, which seriously puzzles Tina. Barry thanks the teacher for her help, saying that he will figure it out himself, and if a witness is needed, they know where to find her. Cherry leaves shyly, saying that she went to write a report, and, if anything, she can call her. Immediately after this, she goes out and closes the door behind her, leaving them alone. Tina immediately begins to tease the main character, calling him by the same diminutive name. She says that now she knows what his taste is, and is not at all surprised why he hasn't written to her for so many years. Barry tells her with a smile that, in fact, it was she who dumped him. Looking at her, he understands that she was once his first love, but in terms of status, she was his senior. Tina smiles and says that he doesn't value his own girl and traded her for a high school girl, to which Barry replies that he has nothing with Cherry. After some time, Tina's colleague comes and tells her that the results of the examination have arrived, after which she thanks him. She also states that he is lucky because the damage he caused is not even mild. Barry asks her if this means he can go about his business, to which she replies that he should stay with her for now. Tina says that she is just finishing her shift, which means he should go with her and help her with the shopping. After some time, the scene moves to one of the large houses where Tina lives. Entering the apartment, she takes off her shoes and asks Barry why he is frozen in place, recommending that he move on. Barry tells her that they were supposed to go shopping, but for some reason they ended up at her house. Tina says that she doesn't go shopping in her police uniform and needs to change into civilian clothes. She also grabs his hand and says that she can now use his help. Barry looks around and says that she has quite a mess in here. Tina says that he has a very keen eye, and that is why he should help her clean up. Barry asks her if that's the only reason she brought him here, then falls onto the bed and says that he often helped her when they were kids. Barry decides to meet her halfway, while Tina asks him about how many girls he's had over the years. She also asks him to answer honestly and not even think about deceiving her. Barry talks about how he only really dated one girl, and they still broke up. Tina reacts to this quite predictably and rushes forward to punish Barry for his honesty. Barry asks her why she is acting this way, to which the girl replies that, by the way, she has not dated anyone during all this time. Barry asks her if even after a breakup one can't love freely, hinting that it harms demographics. Tina asks the protagonist why he even thought they broke up, to which he replies that she simply disappeared without saying a word. Barry decides to find out the matter and asks her where she went then, saying that he raised a ruckus but still didn't find out anything, Tina says that if he really wants to know, he should help her fold the laundry first. Barry realizes he has no other choice if he wants to get the valuable information and starts getting out his underwear. A few moments pass and he discovers that he has been under the close surveillance of a video camera the entire time. Tina smiles and says that she accidentally turned on the camera, and now she has first-class incriminating evidence. Barry starts to get a little angry and says that Tina just set him up with a trap. Tina doesn't even try to pretend to be an innocent girl and just smiles playfully, looking at her lover. She continues to tease him and says that he probably doesn't want his friends to know what kind of person he really is. Barry talks about giving up and asks her what she really wants. Tina says that she hasn't decided yet, but next week they will definitely go choose a gift for her father. Barry plays hard to get and says that if he has time he will definitely go, but Tina says that he will definitely find the time. Immediately after this, she gets to her feet and says that they should go shopping. Looking at the clothes hanging on the hangers, she recommends that he choose what he would like to see on her. Before doing this, she blows dust off the small glasses lying on the chest of drawers. Putting on glasses, she says that she can try on the image of a strict older sister or a cute schoolgirl. Their romantic conversation is interrupted by the loud buzzing of the phone, and Tina complains that this is a terrible time to call. After taking the call, she learns that there is an urgent request for police reinforcements, and says that she will be there very soon. Barry looks at her with a smile and says that now she definitely doesn't have time to go shopping. Tina points to the window and says that the emergency happened right there and can be seen even from here. Barry goes to the window and looks around, trying to figure out what happened, wondering if it was a fire or a fight. After a while, he realizes that he has been played again and turns back, but Tina is already waiting for him there. Without thinking twice, she kisses the main character, taking advantage of his naivety. Smiling, she says that the emergency happened right here and points to her lips. As she heads towards the exit, she says that the only thing that matters to her is that he doesn't forget about her. Donning a police cap, she declares that she is going to administer justice on the streets of this city. Barry watches her carefully, realizing that this girl is truly amazing and good-natured. He also says that she has quite realistic ideas and motives because she is a fool. Feeling a little tired, he stretches and says he'll have to get down to some real business. The scene moves to huge skyscrapers, where at this moment important financial matters are being carried out. The bigwigs of the financial world turn to Barry and ask him about the reason for their urgent meeting and what problem needs to be solved. Barry says he just came to tell them all off. They ask him what the reason is, and he states that they control the financial market of half of the Southern District, but cannot find one person. Financial bigwigs say that finding people is really not their profile, because they don't deal with mafia groups. They also say that when it comes to gathering information on companies, no agency can beat them, and Barry smiles. He says that this time there will be no competition, and he will invest $10 million in each of the companies so that they create a special department that works only for him. The heads of conglomerates ask him if he is serious about investing such huge sums in them. Barry says he's completely serious, but they have to do it exactly the way he wants. The heads of companies say that he can be sure that it is important to them that no secret remains hidden. They also add that if necessary, they will be able to find out which toilet is available in any company at the moment. Barry talks about pitching a French renewable energy company. Meanwhile, the scene moves to one of the luxury hotels, where at this moment very dubious events are also taking place. A smartly dressed girl gives Frank a massage and asks him if he's okay. Frank says that today he feels incredibly sluggish and will not be able to please her with his masculine strength. The girl smiles and says that if he wants to be a passive participant, then she will take everything into her own hands. Frank tries to break free from her clutches and asks what the hell she's doing. A seemingly sweet girl declares that the hotel has provided them with a whole bunch of toys, and sometimes it is definitely worth trying everything. Frank says that he will only give up his body over his dead body and tries to escape, but he fails. After a while, his loud cries are heard throughout the area, and everyone can only sympathize with him. After very painful procedures, he goes out into the corridor to at least somehow restore his strength. A hotel employee offers him a healing decoction that significantly strengthens the body. Frank asks her if they have such services at the hotel, to which the girl replies that this is an order from the boss. Frank drinks it all down in one gulp, and says that his boss always takes care of him in the best possible way. The employee recalls Barry saying he had a friend with specific tastes, and asking her to prepare more accessories. It was he who asked to add more vitamins to the broth, so that Frank would not ruin his health. Barry smiles and understands that after this performance, Frank will remember this expensive hotel forever, and will chat less. Meanwhile, one of the bandits turns to his subordinates and demands that they behave as carefully as possible. He states that they should carry the load more carefully, because if they drop it, they will pay until retirement. Frank goes down and notices that for some reason there are bandits belonging to Gray's group here. He asks the manager what's going on here, to which he replies that a client has bought out the entire top floor and wants to throw a birthday party. Frank looks closely at the decorations and guesses that the party is being arranged for Yamada. The manager asks him if he knows this girl, to which he replies that it is a holiday for his boss's girlfriend. The manager tries to understand what he means, but Frank states that this guy decided to compete with the main shareholder of the hotel. The manager understands who we are talking about and asks if the holiday should be cancelled. Frank smiles and says that under no circumstances should such holidays be cancelled. It is better to spend them with maximum effect.